Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show, bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Recording live in studio, here's Nick and Matt.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We're at episode 136. Matt's been working tirelessly all day to try to get on the guests that everyone wants to hear from. We were able to lock down at least one of them from the previous winners of this past weekend at the Jonesboro Open. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We're very excited to bring you another Nick and Matt show.
Yes, sir. Calvin Heimburg will be on the show. I just got off the phone with him. He's somewhere in Kansas, so he's driving. But I don't think he'll be driving for the interview. And then this one, everybody, Ricky Wysocki. Some ranking systems have him as what? The number one ranked player in the world right now. And he's been sitting out a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that should be an interesting interview. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. Epic.
Yeah.
What do they call it? A barn burner? Something happened in Jonesboro. And it was what we've all wanted this year. I think our group text was saying something about this. I said, or I don't remember who, maybe it was me. It was, we want an FPO at the very least, an FPO round where it comes down to the last hole and we don't know who's going to win. And what happened? Mm-hmm. Evan, how are you doing?
Good. And it came down to the last hole and more,
yes,
which of course we'll get to.
Yeah. How are you doing, Evan?
I'm doing pretty good. Just, man, it's spring. It's rainy. It's dreary up here in New England. I'm ready for some sunshine, and the sun just came out as we got in the studio and beaming through my window. But we're here talking disc golf, and that's honestly better.
Yeah. Tournaments are happening. Some people have tournaments all the time. In the winter, we have what we call New England Team Challenge through the winter. Tournaments are really coming back in full swing, and some really great ones. I've been bringing my kids out. Ben?
Yes.
Did you shoot the round of your life this weekend?
Oh, sorry. I meant to do this.
Oh.
Yeah, brother. No, I shot 980. So I guess so, actually. I guess so.
Yes.
That's my highest rated round. So I guess that would consider be
the round of your life.
The round of my rated round of my life. But it was
ratings.
Rated round.
Maybe we should talk about ratings today too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I shot 900
Seems
round
like it's the hot
round.
topic.
So
well, good job.
Thanks.
Were you were beat by a 15-year-old, right? Which age?
Yeah,
age now means nothing.
I mean, so out of the field, only one person wasn't beat by a 15-year-old. So even all the pros. So.
But the point is, the age doesn't matter anymore. I think in disc golf,
no.
It pretty much doesn't matter.
No.
Nick, you were beating people when you were how old?
I started playing when I was 18.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, 18 or 19 is when I quote unquote started beating people. So wasn't too young. You know, I wish you had showed me the sport 10 years prior.
Wow.
You had all the opportunities to, but you were trying to hold me back, I guess. And then you're like, you know what? Maybe
Wait, how long have you been playing now then?
Since you showed me it in 2013/2014.
So 10 years ago.
Just about 10 years. Yeah. With a couple years off here and there.
So 6 years before that, you would have been 13. I could have brought you out as a 13-year-old.
Yeah, we knew each other. I think I've known you since I was like 8 or 9 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Cool. Man, yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So, Evan, go ahead and give us the rundown on the event, and then we're going to break out the topics, and then we're going to get to the interviews and a whole bunch of other stuff. So here we go.
Yeah, both divisions were exciting. Came down to the wire in both. Let's start with Cat Mersch, though. Arkansas local, winning it in Arkansas. Ben's favorite player on tour besides Gannon Burr.
Correct.
He
just doesn't have the same ring. Remember last week? Cat Mersch.
No,
it doesn't.
No, we're not getting into that. But Ben picked her to win, and what happens? She wins in a playoff over Haley King. It was an exciting final round. Kristen Tatar back at the end of Chase card, and we saw lots of new faces. We saw Aria Castroita, a 17-year-old who was the PDGA Rookie of the Year last year, up there fighting. We saw Haley King looking back to be in 2021 form, it seems, and Kat Mersch, of course, playing for her first victory on tour. It eventually goes to a playoff with Kat Mersch and Haley King. I think it'll have some discussion there. What was going through Haley's mind and what was up with her lie? It looks like she was in the better position, but her upshot hit some trees and she had a long circle to putt from the woods that she wasn't able to get down. Kat Mersch was able to lay it up for the playoff victory. Like I said, that's her first elite win of her career. It's only her third podium on tour of her career. The other two, the first one was at Jonesboro last year, and the other one was last week at Champions Cup. So lots of recency going well for Kat Mersch. We saw Holland Hanley get a fourth place finish. She is now tied for second in the Disc Golf Pro Tour points. Evelina Salonen had a good weekend, finishing fifth and beating Kristen Tatar as the best European of the weekend in FPO. Kristen Tatar finishes sixth off the podium yet again. That's her second finish off the podium this season. The first two times she's ever been off the podium at Disc Golf Pro Tour events. Kristen Tatar still leads in Disc Golf Pro Tour points. Definitely the best player of the season still, not taking any of that away. Her Disc Golf Pro Tour lead actually is the largest lead since 2020 in Disc Golf Pro Tour points. A great pace she's setting. And worth noting, Ella Hansen, Henna Blomers, Heidi Line, and Missy Gannon finishing 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. It was an exciting weekend of disc golf. Like I said, there's a lot of names all throughout the place. Over in MPO, we saw Calvin Heimburg and Eagle McMahon go down to the wire. They were trading strokes back and forth through the entire final round. I think they were matched through the first two rounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was tied after one, tied after two. One was going ahead by a stroke or two. The other was going ahead by a stroke or two, back and forth constantly, all the way into hole 18. They are tied. Heimburg took a stroke back on 17 to tie it up, has the box on 18, throws a great drive. Eagle McMahon decides to go over everything on a huge sky flex line, sky highs. I think it was a sky highs line, excuse me. Ends up going OB, doesn't make it back in, has to go way back. And from there, he's just playing hero ball, trying to get the miraculous shot of, ends up triple bogeying to give Calvin Heimburg a 3-stroke win. That's Calvin Heimburg's largest margin of victory of his career at an elite event. Of his now 9 elite wins, 3 strokes the largest. I should have had this prepared, but it's something like his last 3 wins combined were by 2 strokes at elite events.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a playoff. That's right, against Macbeth last year.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that brings it up. Calvin Heimburg's now won 3 out of the last 4 years at Jonesboro. Mm-hmm. The only year he didn't win of those 4, he finished second to Ricky Wysocki. I find this one interesting. It's a little bit cherry picked, a little bit not. But Calvin Heimburg becomes the second MPO player to win a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite event 3 times. Ricky Wysocki was the first to do it. He did it at Jonesboro. He also did it at Ledgestone. That's including the year that him and Calvin Heimburg actually tied. So Wysocki's done it twice. So notably, Paul Macbeth has not done it. Not at a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite event. He has done it at
National
Elite
tours
and majors. If you combine National Tours and Pro Tour, like DDO, for instance, he's won numerous times, maybe 5. One of them was a Disc Golf Pro Tour, maybe 2, but not 3. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's a little bit cherry picked, but also I think it's fun and worth it. But going down the leaderboard, Eagle McMahon finishes on the podium still. He has back-to-back podiums for the first time since 2021. I think he's been looking really, really good since getting that elbow shoulder injury. I forget exactly what body part. Isaac Robinson gets a podium after his Champions Cup win. This was his first time ever playing Jonesboro, and he gets a second place finish. And I think if you ask people what would be Isaac Robinson's best courses on tour, I don't think this wouldn't be one very high up, but he's playing well. He gets the podium finish. Ben Calloway also finished in that tie for second with them. That's his best finish on tour of his career. Andrew Presnell gets a 5th place spot, likely getting him a Disc Golf Pro Tour tour card. And I wanted. Oh, did I not have Silas Schultz listed down? He was playing really well, was he not?
He did.
He
I don't know how he finished.
And then through the first 2 rounds was playing pretty well, and then the last round had kind of fallen off a little bit. Okay. But it put him in 13th place to end the event.
He popped into my mind, and I thought he was in that mashup of 5th place finishes, but turns out he's not, like you said. And going down the leaderboard, Gannon Burr, who's one of the top players nowadays, finishing in 10th. That's a little bit low for him. And then also Chris Dickerson and Paul Macbeth tied for 15th with Simon Lizotte also in 23rd. So it was a heavy just bunched leaderboard. And if there's one more name I have to mention before I finish this, it's James Conrad. He finished tied for 5th. He shoots as of now 1101. I don't know how to word that. 1101, whatever you want to do it. 1101 rated round as of now. Official ratings are still pending. I think they will be published on the second Tuesday of the month, so we have about another week to go. But as of now, sitting at 1101, the first 1100 rated round on the Disc Golf Pro Tour since 2019 when Garrick Earthy did it at MVP Open. The first 1100 rated round of James Conrad's career. The best he previously had was, funny enough, 1099.
Which he jokingly said, this will probably go down to 1099 once the ratings become official. He was like, please don't happen. But yeah, Maple Hill, 1099.
Yeah, but to go on that 1099 for a quick second at MVP Open in 2018, that was the last time he won a Disc Golf Pro Tour event. Of course, he's won 2 majors in between, which have been very important. But that was in the final round to get a 1-stroke victory over Paul Macbeth. Ricky Wysocki shot an 1100 rated round that event in round 2, but then stumbled in the final round. And so kind of just full circle moment for things revolving James Conrad. That was a 17 down, by the way. He had 2 pars, but had an eagle to get to that mark. And he cleared the field by 4 strokes. The first 2 days were playing very, very scoreable for the entire field, with the third day actually being not as much. And I'll share this stat. Calvin Heimburg won with a 5 down in the final round. That's Calvin Heimburg's worst round, score to par wise, at Jonesboro since 2019. So through this whole stretch of him winning and finishing in second, he's never finished worse than that. And the final round, when he does win, he shoots that low just because it was a lot windier and tougher conditions. Did I miss anything?
No. And you set us up, you teed us up for so much. So before we get into that topic, though, ratings, we've talked about it a few times now in the first 13 minutes now. Yeah, congratulations to Kat Murch. You could tell this really meant something to her more than sometimes you see other players, and just purely by the celebration. Everyone's reaction to that is a little bit different. I think some of my kids thought it was a little, they weren't used to that. It was a little strange celebration, the screaming from deep in your soul. But that's good for them and good for everybody else to see. Like, this means a lot to somebody. So congratulations to her. She performs well at this venue. She doesn't think it's a home field or home course or home state advantage. She says she doesn't believe in that. But I was really impressed. Incredible. I don't know why we don't see her more often. Well, I mean, I know why. We could. the technicalities, but I mean, yeah. And the same for Haley King. We don't see her very often lately, but we did this weekend, and it was a tie going in playoff, and that's what we wanted, the excitement. Fortunately for Kat, but unfortunately the way it unfolded was kind of an errant shot by Haley. But is what it is. Congratulations to Kat. That's awesome for her career. And Calvin will have him on in a little bit, so I'm not going to break down the kudos there much. We'll wait for him to come on.
I just wanted to say, like, Kat Murch definitely won it through many amazing shots throughout the weekend. I think that playoff will be, people will question what was going on. Again, the camera doesn't tell you everything. We don't know how obstructed Haley King's lie was on that playoff throw. But it looked like, an errant upshot. But Kat Murch she was getting eagles during the weekend. She, on hole 14, which plays as a par 4, I believe, for the women, she went a full bombing flex shot that just absolutely parked the hole for the eagle, which was one of the coolest shots I've seen from any woman in a long time. Like, that was so cool, and I love that hole, first of all. And so she definitely went out there and won it for a weekend that many could say, with Tatar not playing well and some of the bigger names down the leaderboard, that it was a new faces and maybe not as much going out to getting the win. I think she absolutely did, though.
Mm-hmm. So Ricky just texted me, what time am I joining? Told you earlier. No. He's gonna. Ouch! He's been too relaxed on his vacation, I guess is what we'll call it. But let's get into it. I'm gonna give a little spiel on ratings here, and then I'm gonna open it up to everybody here that wants to talk about it. Here we go, chat. You excited about this? Because I know I am. Robbie C. in the chat. I think Robbie has a case for ratings as well, but we'll see. Let's go. So first of all, players care about round ratings. Absolutely. I think they also care about their player rating, maybe more than they should. And unfortunately, it might have more effect on them than it should. But I want to talk round ratings. James Conrad, you already mentioned this, Nick. He cares about the round rating here. He has said, I hope it doesn't go down to 1099 when it goes official. Yeah, he might not be putting a lot in the basket there. He may be saying that just tongue in cheek, a little fun with it, right? To say, hey, I don't want it to go down. But you know what? Other players, Jeremy Colling, he's been going out on social media making this post as of late a few times. That rating is way lower than it deserves, blah, 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 blah. They care about what their rounds are rated. You could get rid of that and say, hey, I shot 17 down, and that's great. But it is hard, unless you know all the courses in the world or on tour very well, it is hard to compare that. For instance, in studio, Terry Miller on DGN asked both the Nates, Nate, do you remember the time you almost shot an 1100 rated round? You know what that allows them to do is say, yes, I do remember a time where I shot a round that was almost the same equivalent. It was almost the same skill and quality to get there. Now, if he had said, do you remember a time you shot 17 down? They're going to go in their heads to some park course or some league that they played and be like, yeah, I've shot 18 on a course like that, or 17 here. There's no way to compare the quality of that round without some form of rating. Some say they don't care. They'll say, hey, the round being 17 down on a hard course is what matters. And I agree, that is what matters, but the ratings are a way for us to compare. There are going to be some who argue that it is skewed a little bit. And I would say, even after talking, we have an interview with Chuck Kennedy. Go back and check it out. It's one of our first 10 episodes, I think. Mm-hmm. I do think that there is some error in there, but I'm not convinced the error is more than maybe what would be 8 to 10 points in a round. I don't think it's skewing much more than that. So if it's 1101, maybe it should be 1110, maybe. But the point here is it's close and it's a way for us to compare. They're able to do that again by using ratings. I think if you're comparing, saying that 17 down at Jonesboro is equivalent round to 14 down at Fountain Hills, and saying that's a problem because which one's way harder, Jonesboro? Well, in what conditions? What field are we talking about? It comes down to a lot. Is it raining? Is it windy? Which way is the wind going? Is it a tailwind or headwind on certain holes? The courses play different. That's why you need ratings to compare how hard it was. If 14 down on Fountain Hills is rated 1101 and 17 down at Jonesboro was rated 1101, then you know the skill that it took to do that was about the same in the conditions that they were played. Again, it may be off 5 points, 8 points, 10 points, but you're pretty close, and it's a way to compare the difficulty between those rounds. For one last point here. If I say 1,020 golf isn't making the cash line, that tells you, Nick, really quick, Evan, really quick, significantly more than if I said, hey, guys, 15 down total at these events isn't making the cash line. And you'd be like, well, you'd go, which course? Because 15 down doesn't tell you anything. And people are trying to make it more about the shooting under par, but we need an easier way to be able to tell the quality of that round. That's all I'm saying. I think it's an interesting thing. I'm not talking about player ratings. Again, I'll close out by saying that player ratings are different. I don't know that we need them, and I think that's a whole nother conversation. But round ratings, I think they're spectacular. What do you think, Nick or Evan?
I'll let you go ahead, Evan, if you got whatever.
Boy. Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of different things that we can talk about.
We have 5 minutes till Calvin comes on.
Okay, I'll speed it up then. I think round ratings and player ratings are fantastic. I think they're especially great for amateurs. That's of course not the exact conversation we're having here, tending towards pros. I understand a lot of the criticism towards it. I think one kind of counterpoint I want to make to a lot of criticism is people always like to bring in the memorial and being like, hey, the memorial coughs up 1,100 round ratings like nothing. So it diminishes the meaning of that term and the accomplishment. And that's a fair point. I get it that Memorial is tough, but you can't directly compare the Memorial, which is an outlier that we are admitting, to all these. You can't be like, well, what did Calvin Heimburg, what would this have been at the Memorial? If that's an outlier, we got to treat it as an outlier and stop comparing it as such. I think what we got to do is compare this James Conrad round to other notable rounds of recent memory. I mean, we can compare it to Paul Macbeth at Champions Cup last year. We can compare it to Joel Freeman at Butler County last year. Both were phenomenal rounds that people thought should have been 1100 rated rounds, but weren't. I think those are valid talking points that we should get into. But I think also what's really notable about this round being 1100 rated is there's not a ton of out of bounds on this course. And not that out of bounds immediately makes round ratings higher, but it adds more scoring separation, which does make round ratings higher. And so I think the fact that James Conrad did this is really, really notable. And the fact that he cleared the field by 4 strokes. Yeah, it was playing easy, but clearing the entire field at an elite event by 4 strokes is absolutely incredible. And this is an accomplishment. I wish I could calculate this a little bit faster, but all I got right now is just by player. I pulled up Paul Macbeth, checked out all the times that he beat the entire field by 4 or more strokes at an elite or major. The last time he did this was 2021 USDGC. And the last time before that was 2018 at Deglo, which was the 18 down round, where he actually cleared the field by 7 strokes, which is unreal. But Paul Macbeth hasn't done this anytime recently. And I know Paul Macbeth's having a little bit of down year. That's a separate topic right now. But he clearly has been dominant as of late, and he has barely ever done this. So I think that makes it a really, truly notable round. And I hope it stays 1100 because I think it deserves to live on in history as one of the great rounds.
Yeah, you brought up OB, and I think OB is a fantastic point to show you that the ceiling of ratings can increase. The ceiling can increase because the course is technically a lot harder. But you still have to shoot the round to get the rating. But it does allow the ceiling to increase. What do you think, Nick?
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is kind of the conversation that we've had so many times before.
Here it is again.
Yeah, I know, right? Which I think it's a fun conversation to have just with anyone in general. But I guess my kind of take on it is we're so infatuated with this round just barely squeaking above 1100 that we're not taking into the fact that it was 17 down. So let's say ratings weren't existent. Everyone would say, oh my gosh, James Conrad just went out and shot 17 down, just shot almost, 18 down at one of the Elite Series courses, beat the field by 4. I mean, there are so many different things that we could talk about, but we're so kind of headstrong on what I would say is a very flawed rating system. I think there's too many different propagators. This course doesn't have as much OB as a course like Fountain Hills does. 2018 Deglo that Paul played his 18 down at didn't have as much OB as the Deglo that we play nowadays does. And so the propagators are different. I mean, if Paul goes or James or Ricky or whoever shoots 18 down at the Deglo that we have nowadays, it'll rate better than more than likely than what the 18 down in 2018 rated. So I just think there's too many propagators. Plus, it's also nowadays on the Elite Series events, it's also harder to rate because the skill of players and the ratings that the players bring with their own propagators, these players being a propagator, is so much higher than what it was back in 2018, 2019, 2015, 2013, 2012 even, since kind of the inception of these 1100 rated rounds that we see more frequently. It's just a completely different field that James is playing nowadays compared to what the players were playing 10 years ago. So if anything, it's harder to shoot 1100 rated now, which makes it all the more impressive for a player to go out and shoot an 1100 rated round. And I think that's a benchmark. If you can say, how many players there's not that many of them who can actually say they've shot an 1100 rated round. But I just think that there's too many outliers. There's too many propagators for the system to work perfectly. If I was to make a rating system, I would make a course be the rating. So on a perfect condition day, Jones Gold or Jonesboro, their gold level layout, let's say even par is 1,000 rated. So every single stroke is plus or minus that, whether you're over par or under par. I think that's better than having every single player.
But then when it's raining and the wind is 30 miles an hour in your face, you're gonna, someone shoots 18 down, then you're like, but that was way better than a perfect day.
Exactly. But now that's, fewer propagators that the system has to account for. Then you've got players ranging from 1048 rated down to, let's say, 998 rated. And 10 years ago, players were 930 rated playing in Elite Series events. And those players are going out and they're throwing OB 10 times more than, another great player. Like for me, when I went to Ledgestone in 2017, I shot plus 20, plus 30, or plus 40, whatever it was by the end of the tournament. So if anything, I'm helping out pros with their rating. One, I'm donating money, and two, I'm helping out their rating because I am playing so bad that it helps them when they play a good round. So I just
because
think
it's based off of your rating,
Yep.
which says
What's
how
that?
good you are, which says when you're playing a certain level, it says how hard the course is. I'm saying when you came in and you said it's a very flawed rating system, I don't agree with that. I think it's flawed by, like I said, maybe 10 points a round. Which, if we're saying someone has 1101 and someone says they have 1111, in my mind, that might be a difference between a record and not. But to me, I'm going, dude, anything that's within 10 points of 1100 is fantastic. Like, I agree. You can't pinpoint it down to 1101 or 1102 is that much better. Like, don't do that. That's foolish.
Yeah.
But
I think it's just, and this is kind of my last little spiel on it. For me, I think ratings, in a sense, take away so much from a tournament. Where in the sense of, Calvin just went, 1070, 1037 to win an event. Calvin, I think at this point in his career, maybe he does care about the ratings. We can talk to him a little bit about it. But I think really that all that matters for these pros nowadays is just getting the win in general. Like, I just played a C tier this past weekend. I averaged 1030 at it. It could have been a 1010 rated round or 1010 rated tournament or a 1080 rated tournament. And to me, it doesn't really matter at this point because all I care about is the win.
To you,
I don't care if I win by 1. I don't care about, if I win by 10. But I think a majority of the pros, if you were to take away every single pro's rating and just give them a ranking system,
yes,
I think
totally
that would be so
mind.
much better for them.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I think ratings just take away too much. Like, James Conrad just shot an incredible round. It was absolutely filthy. People can talk about how maybe the course needs to be tightened up a little bit. Maybe 16 should be a par 4, not a par 5. You can talk about that in different topics. But at the same time, James Conrad, on great conditions, went out and filleted the course.
Absolutely.
Whether it rated 1075 or 1125, I personally don't think it should matter because he went out and he beat the field by 4 at an Elite Series event, especially in 2023. It's not happening very often.
It doesn't matter, Nick. It doesn't. But for conversation, we've said this for
conversation,
years.
fact,
It allows us to compare. It allows us to say how good something was if you don't know. When Ben comes back from this tournament he just had last week, and I know he's an AM, but he goes, I shot a 980 round. Like, I have zero idea about the course. I've never been there. It tells me and it tells you that was decent for Ben, at least.
For
at
me,
the very
for
least.
sure.
And Nick, when you say you just averaged whatever at a round, that tells me how you're doing. If you had said, Matt, I shot 21 under and I won an event, I'd say, good job, Nick. I would say, good job. I'd be proud of you. But like for you to say what you shot, I'm going, dang, I'm going to talk to Ben after and go, Nick's averaging pretty high ratings. Like it matters.
Realistically,
in that aspect.
though, if I went up to you and said, hey, Matt, I won by 8 strokes, or, oh yeah, I averaged 1030 on the day.
I would say, I would say, who's the field? Are you playing against kids who are brand new? I'd say, is the course easy? Like if I hear a rating, it tells me that right away. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got you.
We got Calvin in the
that makes
green room.
sense. Bring him on in.
We would go on this topic all night.
Screw it. We'll bring Calvin into this conversation too.
No, not yet. Not yet. All right. Well, let's welcome to the show, everybody. Calvin Heimburg.
Calvin Heimburg.
Dude, it looks like you've been not driving all day. You look awesome, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I have been driving all day, but I appreciate it. I'm actually in Emporia right now. Oddly enough, I made it. Yeah, I'm parked outside of Starbucks in Emporia.
Nice.
Wow,
nice.
good.
What are you doing out in Emporia?
Yep.
Is the GBO just finished? That's I think what was happening this weekend there, right? You know, maybe.
What in Emporia?
Yeah, I thought GBO.
I don't know.
Yeah,
either.
they brought back their essentially what the DDO is, except for non touring pros.
Sorry,
Yeah, there is a pro division, but it's like more of a local big A tier, kind of what the roots of it used to be. And that happened recently. I don't know if it was this weekend though.
Okay. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm way off. But we're not here to talk about that. He just said he was in Emporia. Congratulations on this win. Calvin, let me get it out of the way quick. I picked you again this week, so good job. Thanks for coming through.
Thanks for believing in me.
This is the
We've
year
come
of me.
a long way.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple years ago, Matt
doubted
would have been
him.
like, Calvin can't win anything, and now he's just like every single week. It's it's very easy to predict who Matt or Ben are gonna pick because it's usually Gannonburg and Cap Merch, and Matt is just right off the rip, Calvin Heimburg. So
No, I haven't picked him every week. I pick him when I think he's due to win. It is the year of Calvin winning. Congratulations, man. Jonesboro is apparently, I don't know how else to say it, but whatever. It's your course. It's your course, man.
Yeah.
What were the rounds like without wind there? Is that accurate? I mean, we weren't there, but everyone was talking about how calm and perfect it was. What was that like?
Yeah, it was super abnormal. The first 2 rounds it was literally like dead calm out there. Like I don't know if I've ever played any rounds where there was no wind out there. So for the rounds to be as calm as they were, allowed us to score really well. And you saw that as a whole from the entire field. So a lot of people put down a lot of great scores. We saw James put down a 17 down, and normally that's just not possible out there. Normally it's just way too windy. So the first 2 days were perfect, unlike any other tournament I've ever played there. And then the final day we got some normal wind out there.
You brought up James in the abnormally lacking wind round. 17 down, how would you describe that in a few words? Like, what is a 17 down on that day like if you were to do it?
Nearly perfect. I would say like out there on that course, 19 down would probably be like the perfectly thrown round. I mean the 16th is a kind of a softer par 5, and especially in no wind, it's like really attackable. So I would say if you're playing perfect, it would be 19 out there. The 17 that he put down is incredible. Like actually doing it is really impressive. So
yeah,
congrats to him on that. I mean, it was a great round. It bumped him like way up the leaderboard from, I'm not sure exactly what card he was on, but he bumped all the way up to lead card. So
I want to say it was like 7th card or something. But
yeah, he made a really big move. Yeah, because I think he would have been 8 down the first round, and then 17 the second round. So he made a big jump.
Let me ask this. Not to you already said this. You said the fact that he actually did it. That's obviously a hypothetical. You said 19's perfect and then 17's great, and then to actually do it is incredible. Because we can talk about it all day. So, but I'm going to let you talk about something here. You shot 13 down 2 rounds in a row. You as a player know the mistakes you made and things that you wish you had done differently. What do you think your round coulda, shoulda, woulda been on that same day? Because you shot 13. Do you think you missed 4 strokes out there pretty easily?
I don't know if that same day if I really left anything out there.
Okay.
I don't. The only time I would say I left something out there is if I missed a short putt or really messed up a pretty easy approach or something along those lines. So I'm not sure I would say I left anything out there. I mean, in those conditions, every hole is very attackable. So, I could say I left 6 out there, but
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, realistically, going back and thinking about it, I think the probably the shot I would probably want back the most is maybe my approach on the hole 17. But other than that, I think as a whole, the holes I didn't get, I probably just didn't quite throw well enough.
Last question from me, Nick. Calvin, do you feel like 1101 is a good rating for 17 down? Your initial gut, does it I know you're not the pro with the ratings, but does it feel good to you? Is it close?
I mean, I would feel great if someone told me I shot 1100 right around. I've never done it, so that'd be sweet. But
okay,
yeah, I don't know. I kind of just, I'm not a huge fan of the ratings. I don't see it really being that useful of a metric once we get to the upper end of the sport. So I don't know.
It's
It's like obviously he shot a great round. It was 17 under on a pro tour layout, so I don't
mhm.
know if like we really need to harp too much on what the rating algorithm was. He shot 17 down on a course that's on the pro tour.
That's so
Exactly.
weird, Matt. That's almost exactly what I was just
But
saying
he
5
did
minutes
say,
ago.
Nick, you and I can argue about this, but he's here to be interviewed. He did say
Yeah.
he would be happy to hear he shot 11:01.
Yeah.
So there you go. What do you got for
Yeah.
Calvin?
But if ratings weren't a thing, he wouldn't care whether it was 1100.
they
The only
are a
reason he
thing.
cares
Go.
is because ratings are a thing right
Go.
now.
Ask,
Anyways,
go,
Calvin,
ask.
talk to us realistically though about the last round. The wind had picked up, the weather definitely shifted a little bit more. You and Eagle are in a tight back and forth battle throughout the whole round. You go back to back bogeys, and then he takes a double bogey on what some would consider an easy hole. Just kind of talk to us about the mindset going into that final round and then playing throughout that final round.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty close. Eagle and I were tied going into the final round, and James was, I think, 1 back. Corey was 2. Kyle Klein might have been 3. So there's still like a handful of people well within striking range. The wind was up, so like definitely opportunities to, you know, separate from the field more if you were throwing the disc well. But also, nobody got to really practice in any wind that week. It was a really calm week as far as weather even went on the practice days. So everyone was kind of going out there blind and having to kind of improvise off of their original game plans. And the wind out there is kind of swirly, so it can be a little difficult to always predict what's going to happen with your disc. But I went into the round knowing I wanted to play aggressive. I wanted to um, go for things and kind of like, you know, kind of push things forward. Definitely bit me a couple of times early, with those back-to-back bogeys. But I did get all those strokes back on hole 6 when Eagle double bogeyed. So all those strokes back, you know, was kind of a gift there. But yeah, we were neck and neck. No one really played outstanding, I would say. It was windy, but like even with it being that windy, I wouldn't say either of us were that satisfied. Like I 5 down isn't really that impressive in that wind, especially seeing as how well we were playing earlier in the week. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean it was close coming down the stretch, and it's kind of where you want to be. You want to be in contention coming down the final stretch, and I was able to execute a few shots in key moments and
Mm.
come away with the win.
And talk to us just a little bit about, is there a sense of relief when you watch a player on the 18th hole? You guys are tied going into it. Is there a sense of relief when that player throws OB or doesn't throw an ideal shot? 18 is a hole that you've had numerous success on over the last few years. Just kind of talk to us about the 18th hole and just kind of the mindset from the tee pad all the way to the finish of it.
Yeah, the 18th at Jonesboro is a really difficult hole to birdie. It's a longer par 4 with a pretty tight gap, and then like you really have to attack either the left or the right side of the fairway. You can't really be down the middle of the fairway if you want to be going for birdie. So most people, if they want to play for birdie, they'll go out to that right side. I've in the past, thrown shots that flex back out to that left side, which is I think probably even more preferable. But I threw my shot and kind of overturned it, but ended up in that right side, and Eagle had been throwing that hyzer shot over the top all week. I don't know if I'd ever seen anyone do it before, but he executed it perfectly the first 2 rounds. Just happened to throw it a little too far the final round. I don't know if there was a little wind up there that kind of held it too straight or whatnot, but when he threw out of bounds, it seemed pretty much over to me. I mean, unless like they told us that there was some kind of crazy roll out of bounds when we went up there, but him throwing a hyzer over out of bounds the whole way. Once it went out of bounds, it kind of to me felt like, best case scenario for him was going to be like a 5. So, and from where I was off the tee, I knew I was probably going to have an easy par. And then, like, if I really needed to, there definitely was a way to get birdie from where I landed.
Yeah, it was incredibly exciting in both FPO and MPO coming into that hole. I want to go back a few more holes. We're just going to ask you about your rounds. 15, I think it was 15. Is that the one downhill log, the basket on the log? Is that 15?
That's 14.
Okay.
It's 14.
14, a much windier than the previous rounds. Eagle steps up, lasers it down there, pretty much bullseye, and then you have to come up and is his thought in your head, or are you? I would imagine it's not as a professional, but maybe it is. What are you thinking when you stepped up?
I'm thinking really just about my shot and how I'm gonna do the same thing. Like I did just watch him base the hole, but if anything, it's like I got a little more information, how the wind was reacting. I got to watch him and Corey throw the hole before I did, but
True.
yeah, once I get up there, it's just trying to execute my game plan. I knew what I wanted to do. I'd been throwing that same disc. I just kind of pulled it a little the first 2 rounds, so it was just aim a little more to the left, and I put it right down there by the basket as well.
I don't know why, but that just hit me as such a it was humorous to me to hear you say he basted the hole. So as you're out there playing with incredible players, and I'm sure the same for them, vice versa, you being an incredible player, do you guys ever have those moments of you're like, dang, that is an incredible shot? Does that go through your mind a lot during a round?
It depends on the round. I mean, it definitely happens often. You watch people do pretty crazy cool stuff all the time when you're out there playing. It's always cool. Like I know, when I play with Eagle, I watch him do things that I just can't do. Like him and people like Barella who just throw so incredibly far, and you play with them and you're just I don't even know what that next gear is like. So it's always cool to play with people that do crazy stuff, whether it's just crazy little hyzer flip lines in the woods or just weird stalling backhands. It's always cool to watch how other people attack the course because everyone kind of has a different toolbox.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're thinking the same when they play with you. I think from a viewer's perspective, when we saw you step up after seeing what Eagle did, we're feeling the nerves, I think, in some weird way through you or other players that you want to do well. And it was just an amazing thing to watch you just back it right up. Hole 14. That was just awesome. Yeah, I think you answered pretty well 18 with him, with Eagle taking his drive over out of bounds the whole way. Is that a throw you could do? Or is that something where you feel like that's, again, another toolbox? That's something different. Is that throw beyond you?
I have no clue. I've never tried it. So,
Okay.
throwing an over the top shot and then having it fade back between 2 clusters of trees. And, yeah, it's just one of those things I've never practiced. I know he wasn't the only one throwing it during the event. I think I know. I stayed with Thomas Gilbert, and he had talked about going that way. I think Jeremy Colling might also have been going that way. But I don't know if they were throwing it quite as far down there or if they were hyzering out into the earlier clump of trees that was in bounds. I'm really not sure what their results were, but I know for Eagle, he was throwing it really well the first 2 rounds. I mean, he went birdie on hole 18 the first 2 rounds. I feel pretty comfortable going up that gap. So I don't know. It's just not a shot I ever practiced.
Were you surprised? I think in your post-round interview, you made mention of, let's just say, an errant layup of sorts from Eagle. But were you surprised with all the miscues of shots throughout the final round? Maybe it was more in the back nine than anything, but unexpected things happening where you're why did you just throw so far into the woods, right? Or why did he lay his shot? Was it just the wind? Were you surprised by all the miscues?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it had to do with the wind. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him in particular on 16. I mean, he still got a birdie out of it, but it was a weird shot where it kind of just looked like he was between going straight and then turning it and then just never really made up his mind and then just threw it. I'm not exactly sure if he wasn't sure because he is more than capable of executing either one of those shots very well. It was a very weird thing to watch, knowing how good Eagle is to just essentially put it into the woods. But like for me at that moment, it didn't really matter. But yeah, I knew what I had to do, which was get over and maybe give myself a look. But yeah, there were definitely a bunch of miscues. I mean, as I said, neither of us really played spectacular that final round. Most people didn't. I know there was a few people that shot well, but there was a lot of people kind of in the same score range. I feel like, you know, so we definitely did nothing spectacular that day. We did all of our work on the first 2 days, and I guess I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think intern Ben might have a question for you.
I Calvin, yes, do. I'm dressed like cat merch, so don't. This is not normally how I. But now that you've had your third win, is it getting easier to win nerves wise, or do you still have that same like butterfly feeling on like the 16th, 17th hole? If you can describe just kind of that side of the game.
I honestly think there's less butterflies when you're chasing than when you're defending a lead. So like I like haven't really had that opportunity to where like it was really had a lead coming down the final stretch that was really close. So I don't feel like coming down the stretch I've felt very many butterflies this season in particular, because like in Vegas I was chasing Kevin down and we were tied going into the last hole, and I threw inbounds and he threw out of bounds, kind of similar to Jonesboro basically. And in Houston, like it got a little closer there in the middle, but by the time we made it to the end of the round, I had like a pretty sizable lead. So I I don't know. I don't know. I haven't really. I think like when I'm most nervous is like when it feels like you have something more to lose rather than you're trying to chase down something. So we'll see if I put myself, you know, in a close battle where I have the lead coming down the stretch. I think I might be a little more nervous there than I have been in the situations that I put myself in so far this year.
Well, I think Evan was saying earlier that this is your largest margin of victory at an Elite Series event. Am I correct to say that, Evan?
Yes.
Okay, so largest margin of victory at an Elite Series event, 3 strokes coming down, you know, to the, you know, what do you call it, the 54th hole, coming down to it where you were tied going into it. So I definitely get the take where you're saying it's kind of, you know, easy to not have the butterflies when you're chasing down something. One of the questions that I wanted to ask is just about your season in general right now. You've got numerous wins, you've got numerous third places, a fourth place, and one finish outside the top 10, which was at the major back at Champions Cup. Can you guys kind of give us a little bit of insight on what was going on at Champions Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I felt pretty good going into the week. And then I threw the disc really well off the tee. I just didn't really execute my approaches, and then the putter wasn't quite as sharp as it had been the rest of the season. So just not getting the putter in the basket was probably a pretty big thing, and then just not throwing approaches as well as I should have been. You know, making my putts a little longer than they should have been out on that course definitely cost me a lot of strokes. So throwing off the tee felt great. I think I threw the disc very well out there as far as tee shots went. It was just second shots on par fours and then putting the putter in the basket.
All right. UDisc currently and other ranking systems have you as number 1. I heard you asked, I think it was the press conference going into Champions Cup, how you felt about that. And you said, hey, I can't do the impression as good as Ben Calloway, but hey, you know, this is where you're at. Like, what do you think coming into this event? And you said like, hey, I don't think any of that matters. I could probably actually, I have the recording somewhere, but what do you think now? This is not pre-event. This is not asking how you're going to do at your next event. Like, what do you feel? What are you taking away from the fact that these ranking systems have you as number 1 right now?
I mean, it's cool. I don't know. There's just in this current state of disc golf, I don't know if there's really like that much incentive to be number 1. Like, it doesn't change anything that I'm doing. Like, I still have to go out and, you know, prep for the next tournament the same way I would whether I was number 1 or number 5 or 10 or 20 or whatever. So I don't know. I don't put too much weight on it. I feel like, you know, a lot of that stuff is probably more important, you know, coming down the end of the season. We're still kind of in the first half of the year. So, I mean, it's definitely cool. It's definitely showing that I'm playing really well so far this year. and that's really good for me. But I don't. It's not something I'm really dwelling on or thinking too much about. It's I don't know. I guess it's something more that you guys talk about than I would care
Sure.
to talk about.
Hey, and if you go on like the morning news or whatever, Good Morning America, you can go in, or they can say, hey, #1 ranked player in the world. So I think for endorsements and things of that nature and marketing, like it could be used. But to your point, that's not what you're doing in and out, week in and week out. So yeah, cool. Good answer. Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, talk to us a little bit. Just, in the 2022 season, you had 2 big wins that year. Jonesboro, which you just won again, and then the Great Lakes Open. You're already past the 2 wins this year. You're on number 3 right now with your win at Jonesboro this past weekend. What changed between 2022 and 2023? What was your off season like? Like, what kind of elevated this next fire in your play?
Well, first off, I would say I really only have 2 wins. Like I don't think the Silver Series count for anywhere close to as much. So
Okay.
maybe we'll call it 2.5 or something, just to be fair, which is still more than 2.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think really last off season was a little more relaxed than the prior one. The prior off season, I bought a van and built it out, and I might have procrastinated a little bit. So the end of that off season was spent being a carpenter and an electrician and a plumber here building out a van. And a little less time was spent actually preparing for the season. So I just don't think I was quite as sharp at the beginning of the season. And that kind of compounds as you go out on the road. It's pretty tough to once you're in the grind of a season, it's pretty tough to actually really work and sharpen a lot of skills, because a lot of times you're just going out to a course, learning the course, and then you're showing off what your skills currently are. It's you really have to, it's really tough to put aside enough time to actually resharpen skills that are a little dull. So I would say just being able to practice a little more prior to the actual season starting definitely helped kickstart this season. And I think in general, I generally start the years pretty well. As far as a general statement about how I generally play. So yeah, I think it's just playing a little more, and so far this year the putter's been a little bit better, and just when you're trying to compete for a win, a couple strokes going into the final round makes a pretty big difference. Being 4 back as opposed to 2 back, or winning by 1 as opposed to being back 2 or something. It all adds up, and those little tiny differences do make a pretty big difference when it comes down to the last few holes of an event.
If something is feeling off at a specific tournament, are you focused more on that leading up to the next tournament? I know you were talking about how you have to practice the course, kind of fine tune your skills on the course and learn it from any changes from last year. But how are you practicing mid-season to kind of sharpen up other skills that may have been off the weekend prior, going from Champions Cup to Jonesboro?
Yeah, so putting was one thing that I said about Champions Cup that was off, and that's probably the easiest thing to sit down and practice, because we're constantly around baskets, and it's just a matter of setting aside enough time to get that feeling of confidence back. So putting's a pretty easy one to fix, but sharpening other skills when you're on the road is a little tougher, because I do think it's probably more important to go out there and learn how to play the course that you're playing for the tournament than it is to go out and practice whatever forehand putters or whatever. It might be something that might shave 1 stroke off your round or every other round or something, but learning the course is going to help you more as far as that event goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like putting's an easy fix. You really have to dedicate yourself and put aside quite a bit of time if you want to sharpen other throwing skills while you're on the road.
If you could give kind of one putting tip to everyone listening right now, what would your tip be?
Well,
what worked for you at Jonesboro? What tip worked for you? Because you were hitting putts, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all just about creating when you're going your practice putting. If you can just try to imitate that same mental state when you're out there on the course. If you can because like I don't know, a lot of people make all their putts in practice and then they get out on the course and they can't get in that same zone. So it's like trying to find ways to latch on to that mentality and just like that mental headspace that you're in on the practice green when you're at home on your own basket, when you're out in the tournament and just kind of forgetting you're at the tournament. So if you can just kind of, I don't know, find a way to zone out where you are and put yourself somewhere where you're more comfortable.
Did you hear that, Intern Ben?
Yes.
Same mentality,
for you,
practice
Ben.
basket as the course. So
Thank you, Calvin. I will put that in effect. I've also been doing this on my couch thanks to your end of a commercial. Flicking it up in the air.
Yeah, getting that pop.
I was wondering if Calvin was going to say that as his answer, be like, "Oh, well, check out the commercial that I have."
I wonder how many people are doing that because I was on the course popping it up too. I'm like,
It's all about
gotta
the pop.
practice.
Yeah.
That definitely helps.
It does. Okay.
It definitely helps. That's how I figured. I don't know. That's what I was doing when I was like in middle school and was just sitting at home on the couch or whatever when I couldn't be outside.
You hear that?
Gotcha.
To my boys, they watch the show upstairs above me.
Yeah.
So I should look up. You hear that, boys, when you're sitting on the couch. Get out the putter.
You're about to hear discs start hitting the floor when they miss the catch. Just pop, pop, pop.
Dust is like falling down on me.
Yeah. Calvin, last question from me for a second. The rest of the majors coming up through the year, which one do you feel like suits you the most? We have obviously the World Championships in Vermont, the European Open, and then the USDGC. Which one do you kind of feel like suits you the most?
I would probably say, that's tough. I would say I've probably had like USDGC is a weird one because like if you're off a little, like you're just gonna plummet down the leaderboard. Off a little there just means you're out of bounds a lot and you plummet. But I think I've had more success there than either the other two tournaments. Worlds at Smuggler's Notch, I definitely think I have a pretty good chance at. I'm really comfortable out on both of those courses, but so are a lot of people. So I think it'll be a pretty exciting Worlds. I think there's going to be quite a few people in contention coming down the end because it kind of is a test of all skills, and it'll be interesting to see who's firing off that week. But I think and then European Open, I've only played once, so least amount of experience there. But I would probably say USDGC if I had to pick one that I felt most comfortable at. It would probably be USDGC out of the remaining three.
Okay, I have
For the record, 2 podiums at USDGC, and at Green Mountain, you've had 3 top 10s. So, and the top 10 at European Open last year. So, I mean, graded all of them just to round it out, give some context to everyone.
okay.
Yeah, but top 10 at European Open, but like 20 strokes back or something like that.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I had 3 questions. One came from Hannah Macbeth in the chat. One that I was going to ask, and then last question. But we're going to go with Hannah Macbeth because the time's running out here. She said, please ask Calvin who he's most looking forward to seeing on the red carpet at tonight's Met Gala. I don't know. That's from Hannah Macbeth.
Well, I wasn't aware that the Met Gala was happening tonight.
You weren't invited?
I'm not even sure who's. No, I wasn't invited. I must have missed the invitation in the mail or something.
Okay. And then
just say Dua Lipa. I think she's one of them, or Roger Federer. They might be one of them. So you can just pick one of those.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's see Roger. He's a legend.
Last question. What do you listen to driving down the road? All these hours of driving. Podcast, audiobooks, music. What kind of guy are you?
It kind of depends on the mood. Could be a little bit of anything. Sometimes I just have TV shows playing in the background, more audio than anything. But yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of phone calls going on. I definitely use talking on the phone quite a bit. It's a good way to kill quite a bit of time. But yeah, it's kind of just depending on the mood. I feel like music kind of gets old after a while. So does the podcast. I mean, kind of everything does, especially when we have these long cross-country drives. So you kind of got to cycle through them all and mix it up so you don't drive yourself crazy because it's literally 30 hours between Jonesboro and Stockton, California.
And just to follow up to that, you said you have to cycle through everything. Are there periods of time where the windows just get rolled down and you're just blowing like that? No?
No, I don't think I roll down the windows too much driving this van.
Okay.
It'd be a pretty noisy experience, but there are moments of just pure silence, and those are nice too sometimes.
What would that be like? Everyone in the chat, everyone listening, post this week, sitting in a van quietly with Calvin Heimburg for hours. I don't know. All right. Well, we thank you so much for coming on. We knew it would happen again. It just took a little bit for me to pick you again. No, that's not right. I picked you at Champions Cup. You failed me. I'm sorry. But...
Yeah, I let you down. I'm glad you came back the next week and were like, he's gonna bounce back. So
exactly.
I appreciate you believing in me despite my shortcomings. I feel like I'm just glad you don't hate me anymore.
I know, man. It's Nick loved that. It's the chat loves that. They're like, what did they say earlier in the chat? They said something like Matt should have deep down spot for Calvin in his heart or something. I don't know, but we are happy to have you on here. Great guest as always. We totally appreciate it. And unless you have anything that we missed or you want to talk about, we're gonna let you go and do what you need to do for the evening.
I think I'm good. I thank y'all for having me, and thanks everyone for all the support.
Totally.
Don't forget to keep supporting Calvin Heimburg, your Jonesboro Open champion. Have fun in your off week, and then good luck to you at OTB. Maybe Matt will pick you there as well.
Yeah, I got to think about that one. All right, peace out.
Appreciate it.
Take it easy, Calvin.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. That was Calvin Heimburg. You're hearing me cough every now and then, just getting over a cold. I apologize. It's not nice to talk into a microphone and cough at the same time.
Yeah, definitely not fun.
Well, Nick, whether or not you know it or not, we do have someone else in the green room already lined up. So I think without further ado, we should bring him in. Everyone may know him. I don't think they've forgotten yet. Let's bring him in. Ricky Wysocki. Everybody, this is the guy who we haven't seen on the leaderboards lately, but here he is on the Nick and Matt show. What's up, man?
How's it going?
Good. It's going good. We saw that you've been in Florida for a little while. Have you moved along, or are you still down there?
Yeah, I went to Florida, did a test, and able to do some blood. Stupid.
Hold on.
Yeah,
one
hold on
second.
1 second, Ricky.
There
You're
is something-
cutting out every other word.
There's something weird going on
There's
with
like
it.
an equalizer on his voice.
It's like it wants to hear a voice, and then it cuts it down.
You
and then
sound like this.
yeah.
What?
Ricky, try canceling out, exiting out, and then coming back
I don't
into
know
the
if
room.
that's it or not. It's funny.
All right. I'll read a second.
Yep.
All right.
Take your time.
It's everyone knows.
I wonder what that is. Yeah.
That
If
one's a
anything,
little
he's
weird.
probably got a pair of AirPods.
Yeah, if he has AirPods, that'd be great. But
Did we
well,
just lose Nick?
What?
What?
No.
oh, we lost Nick too.
What?
It's
No,
the
hold on. Give it a
Matt and
second.
Evan show.
I'll be back in a
Okay, he's
second.
back.
We're
Yeah.
ready for anything.
I don't know why my internet does that. Every 15 minutes or so, my internet just cuts out.
Let's see if
for
Ricky's back for
7
good. If
seconds.
he's not, as in the audio's weird. What's up, Ricky?
How's it going?
Oh,
There we
Yeah.
go. That
All right.
sounded good.
wow.
All right. Is that still doing it?
No, it's
Nope.
not. It's
Oh,
not.
not
It's
yet.
it's working, and you sound better than ever. You look better than
Okay.
ever. I don't know what I mean by that, but here you are.
Pixelated, and I had every other word coming in.
There we
Yeah.
go. Now we
So-
can understand you completely.
So you
This
heard
is
my
good.
question. You were in Florida for a while. Are you still down there? Have you moved on?
Yeah. So I went initially to Houston. To actually, it was actually weird timing. I went to Houston during Texas States to get some treatment done, and that was when Texas States was there. And so it was just weird timing. I was in Houston when Texas States was there, and I was seeing a chiropractic buddy of mine that I was doing a bunch of treatment with him, and so I was in Houston for that. And then I went to Florida. There was supposed to be a world-renowned health center that's really supposed to be really good at treating Lyme disease. And so I went down there, did a bunch of testing, like blood tests. I did saliva tests, all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm currently waiting on the test for that because a lot of people that get Lyme disease, they also get the ticks give them also co-infections, which are basically other infections that come along with Lyme disease that make it that much harder to treat. So it's just a complicated case, unfortunately, and it's not as easy to really treat it once you have a lot of co-infections and also everything with it. So I'm waiting for the test to come back. I'm doing treatments in the meantime. Also, I'm doing like 4 or 5 different things. I've already done like 2 cycles of antibiotics. Unfortunately, those didn't really work. So I'm kind of going a different route and trying to go that way. Yeah, it's just such a complicated disease, and it's so different for everybody that gets it. I think that some people can get it and knock it out quick, and some people can get it and they can go blind for 6 or 7 years. So I mean, it's some people the Lyme goes into their neurological system, and they start having like their face paralysis and yeah, it's luckily I haven't had that, but it's affecting my joints obviously, which is a total bummer. And it just what it does is just kind of the Lyme spirochetes they're called. I feel like I'm turning into a friggin' looking at all these different my saliva under a microscope. I see all these people sending me back tests of like my saliva under a microscope and all these crazy spirochete things going around and like, yeah, here's a spirochete. That's what causes Lyme disease and all this stuff. So I've just educated myself. I feel like over the last, a couple months, just so much education on Lyme disease and how to treat it. And, it's just a very elusive thing that not like even a lot of the world renowned doctors, aren't, necessarily 100% at treating people. Some people get treated and some people don't. I think that, like I said, some people react good to antibiotics. Some people don't. And I seem like I'm under the category of people that really don't react to them, and it didn't really help me. So, yeah, I'm going to get to the bottom of it, but it's just a long process, and it's definitely depressing because I feel like I've never been in better shape as far as, muscle wise and, stretching and just doing everything I can to keep my body healthy. But, it's just, there's nothing it's completely out of my control, which is super frustrating, not knowing when it's going to flare up and not knowing when it's going to go away.
That was kind of going to be one of my questions is what's kind of the horizon look like? What's the future looking like tournament wise? Do you have any sort of game plan over the next few weeks, the next few months even?
Yeah, I mean, like I played, as you guys probably I played in Nashville, but it was just, I wasn't even close to 100%. I was just kind of like out there scrapping around. I got 8th place, which is okay for considering what, my health of not like having full mobility in your wrist, that was pretty good for me. And but I don't want to go out there and just, go out there just to play. I'm at the point in my career where I want to, if I don't think I can win, I don't want to go. And so I just, I don't want to go through the motions and just play a tournament just to get a good finish. I want to go to a tournament when I feel like I have a chance and I feel like I can win. And I think that I'm just going to kind of wait for that. And, like I said, I'm probably 70 or 80% wrist mobility right now. But like I said, I'm just going to wait till I'm 100%. And I have a chance to play OTB. So I'm still keeping that up in the air. But definitely Portland. I'm hoping really to be back by Portland. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
No. So you talk about mobility and you're talking about 70 to 80%. And, is that the main issue for you, or is there pain involved with it? So like, or is it both? Like what is it? And finally, does it injure you more? Like if you play with it, is it making things worse for you?
Yeah. So that's the thing is it's like, it's not the type of injury that like I can go out there and play and it's not going to make it worse. It's not like I'm playing with something torn in my wrist or something. And if I play, it's going to or potentially, affect my long-term career. But so it's not like that. It's just out there. It's just annoying. Like there's inflammation in my ligaments, in my joints that swell up to the point where like I can only move it like certain percent, like here to there, versus like this wrist, I can move like all the way back and forth. So like when I'm throwing sidearms and snapping my wrist, I don't have the full strength. And so it's inflammation and pain. So it's not like it's just kind of a double whammy. It's more annoying than anything. It's not like excruciating pain. It's just enough pain to where, yeah, it's like the putts don't come out right. Like I don't have the right amount of spin on my putts, and it just feels like I don't have the grip strength like I normally do. And so, like 1 out of 3 putts just kind of fall out of my hand and just kind of hyzer out early without any spin on it.
Mhm.
And so it's just super depressing for sure. But it's just, I'm trying as many things as I can. I'm trying, like I said, obviously many people know I work with a nutritionist. I tried antibiotics. I try to do I've heard saunas are good for helping detox the body. I've done ozone therapy where they oxygenate your blood, and that's supposed to go to the body and help a lot of viruses and bacteria can't live in an oxygenated environment. So when you do that to your blood, it kind of goes throughout your joints and throughout your body, and it's supposed to kill a lot of the stuff that's in your body that's bad. So I've done that. I've done hyperbaric chambers where you go into the chamber and you, like Lance Armstrong actually did it, but it's basically you go in this chamber and it oxygenates the air that you're breathing, and then it just all that air that you're breathing in goes into your body and just oxygenates your body like crazy, because most diseases and stuff can't live in an oxygenated environment. And so just lots of different, I've done IV drips, I've done like vitamin C where they're like intravenously put vitamin C into your body to try and help you and boost your immune system to help fight off the Lyme disease. And so yeah, I'm just doing tons of different things. And yeah, it's pretty frustrating because that's the most frustrating thing is I've tried so many things. And the other thing is like people online, they just like to make assumptions that I'm rubbing snake oil and saying that I'm healed. Like I'm doing so much more than that. It's not
Yeah.
to say.
The internet is a wild place. Nick and Matt show obviously is not immune from that, and you have millions more followers than us. So interesting stuff, man. You mentioned earlier depressed, it's really tough, all this stuff. Like, how are you doing mentally with this? I mean, there's a real mental reality check-in, but like on the day-to-day, like where's your mindset? Are you feeling optimistic, or are you feeling like you just don't know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of optimism, and there's also a little bit of like, I don't know. I mean, so it's kind of like, the limbo is tough. That's the toughest part. Like, I would much rather have like blown out my elbow. Like, hey, I gotta, my elbow's out, and I'm gonna take 3-4 months to come back and heal, and I have a time frame, and I can be like, all right, cool, I'm shooting for this date. Right now, it's just like I might be back for OTB. And if it's not, if the Lyme disease is kind of still in my wrist and I'm not feeling good, like I can't play. Like, but it also, I could wake up tomorrow and my immune system could be like fully ready to go and fight off the Lyme disease, and I'm my wrist heals up. So it's like the limbo is the toughest part. And then I've gone out to practice putt a little bit, and like even like Nashville, there's just so many shots that like I just missed because of my wrist. And I'm not gonna, I'm not out there to make excuses, but that's just, that's what I was dealing with. And so playing that tournament and playing like Blue Ridge championships, those were just 2 tournaments that like I played okay, and felt good to be back out competing. But, I just, I knew I really never had a chance to win because I didn't have my full bag, full arsenal of tools. And, my sidearm was at 70%, my putt was at 70%. And yeah, it's just not going to cut it for me, wanting to play at the highest level.
One of the things that we actually, kind of still seeing your involvement in the sport, even as you're in this limbo stage, is the Wysocki Bomb Foundation had actually put the birdie count on Kristen Tatar for this past weekend. How did that come about, and just kind of how did it end up after the weekend?
Yeah, it was great. So I hit up Kristen before the event once I knew I wasn't going to play, and throughout the last year and this year, all the birdies that I get, so I think it was $25 per birdie, $100 per eagle, and $1,000 per ace on the pro tour. And I'm donating all that to my foundation. And so this week I picked Kristen, and she got 27 birdies, I believe. And so we're going to donate $25. I think it ended up being like $675. And there's also an ace from somebody. It wasn't Kristen the ace, but it's someone else ace. So it's $1,600 for the week. I'm going to donate to the foundation. And then I told her that we'll pick a couple schools in Estonia to donate just a care package of like a basket and 50 discs is what we do. We call it the First Putt program, where we put one basket and 50 discs, send it to a school, preferably like a PE teacher that knows about disc golf. And then that school will kind of have all the tools they need to get kids involved in the sport. So that's kind of our first initiative. And then we're going to go from there and expanding on that. But it was really cool that Kristen wanted to do that, and just a cool way to keep track and root for birdies and watch some of the coverage and kind of just make it a fun game. That trying to root for eagles so that way you can donate more money. It's funny, people are making comments like, "Oh, you're gonna go broke picking Kristen for that."
Yeah, so, you might have jinxed her a little bit.
The pressure got to her.
I know, for real. I wasn't rooting for her not to birdie. I was rooting for her to birdie. I promise that.
Good.
So we asked Calvin a minute ago because he's on a few ranking systems. He's number one in the world. I think there was a few in the past week or so, 2 weeks, where you popped up there still at number one or joining number one. Evan, I don't know if you recall any of those that they were, but I remember seeing and hearing it. Rick, do you know about those, and how do you feel about ranking systems nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's all different. I mean, it's really weird for me because I haven't been playing, so it's hard to rank something that's not really. So it's more controversial than it already is, you know. But I mean, just off the top of my head, I mean, it's right now it's you got to base it on people that are playing, and obviously, unfortunately, I'm not out there. But Calvin's definitely, I think, the best player in the world, and it's just, you know, week in and week out, you can see by his consistent finishes. It's kind of like last year, like I always said last year, the player that's the most consistent week in and week out is going to be the best player in the world. And yeah, Isaac played amazing at the major, and it was, I mean, it was a great performance. That was really fun to see. But you got to also look up all the tournaments leading up to that encounter, you know, to make your best judgment as far as who is the best player at that time. And like I said, you know, considering we had, you know, I don't know how many tournaments, 7 or 8 tournaments, 7, 8, maybe 9 tournaments leading up to the Champions Cup. Those are the tournaments week in and week out. You got to add up the points and add up. Hey, did you know, at this point, it's this stage in the game, top 5 finishes. If you're not winning, staying in the top 5, top 10, who can do that the most consistent that's super important, because it's a type of sport where, yeah, even if you are the best player in the world, you're not winning every single weekend. So then the next thing you got to look at is, hey, next category is wins. And then the next category is, hey, when you don't win, where do you finish? Mm-hmm. Do you finish in 20th or 30th place, or do you finish in, you know, 4th, 5th, you know, 3rd, 4th, or 5th place? And Calvin, when he doesn't win, he's podium. And that's just a sign of consistency, in my opinion. And that's what it takes to be the best in the world.
As you're kind of in the stage of not being able to play every single event that you'd like to, are you keeping up with the Disc Golf Pro Tour and Disc Golf Network? Are you, you know, sitting down watching coverage for both MPO and MPO the whole time, or do you kind of sporadically get to watch a little bit of post coverage when you can?
Yeah, I watch some of the live. I do. I enjoy the live coverage a lot. I watched, you know, Kristen this weekend and all, you know, and Kat in their battle. That was really cool to watch. So I do keep up. I actually prefer live. I've always been a live sports guy, and so I will watch the FPO and MPO. I just feel like the coverage is getting really good, and it's enjoyable to watch. And I got to take advantage of it while I'm a spectator, because I'm hopefully not going to be a spectator for much longer.
Exactly. Jonesboro is a course that you've had success at over the years. You have a tournament win there. Talk to us a little bit about James Conrad 17 down, coming from the spectator side of it, you know, but having played the course and having had success at that course, you know, what is that 17 down like?
I mean, that's an amazing round. I mean, that course is, and also, as you can tell, I mean, you can say that about any course, but that course, when it gets windy, has teeth. And but when it doesn't, I mean, the players, as you know, at this level, at this stage in the game, and how good players are, especially James. I mean, he's just such a good thrower of the disc, and I think that's what Jonesboro is all about. I mean, I think that seemed like the back 9 of the course, he really didn't have to putt; he was just parking everything. So it just takes so much pressure off when you're already at, you know, let's say 10 or 11 under through 12 holes or whatever he was. When you continuously keep getting those birdies, it takes that pressure off of, you know, the 30, 40-foot putts to keep your streak going. And I think that's really the biggest thing for him that he did really well, is he kind of like saved that, you know, I guess, mental stress of having to make those longer putts to keep that streak going. And then he kept doing that up until 18, and then he hit a nice putt on 18 to get to 17 under. Mm-hmm. And it's actually crazy. Like, I think obviously one of the most important holes, I think, for a round like James shot is like hole 16, because you can get the eagle. It's a pretty soft par 5, I would say. That an eagle is a lot of players are just walking up that hole just expecting to eagle that hole. And so once he did that, it was just like, wow, he's having a freaking career round. And so that was really fun to watch and see him lock in like that and play a great round.
Okay.
Now, as one of the give one more, Matt, really quick. As one of the top professionals in our sport, that round is supposedly going to be rated 1101. It might drop, it might go up a little bit more, but just in a sense, when it comes from a pro player's mindset, are you really worried about ratings that much anymore? Talk to us a little bit about that. Or, you know, obviously hitting an 1100 rated round is great. It's a huge milestone in our sport, but in general, what do you think about the rating system?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime you're shooting over 1100 round, it's crazy. And then after that, you're just kind of incrementally like, hey, is 11, you know, someone shot 1120 versus 1101. It's just really hard to shoot over 1100, and it takes an amazing round. But it's definitely different. I mean, like you take a course like Fountain Hills. If you shot, you know, on paper, if you see someone shooting 18 under at Fountain Hills, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's better than James's 17 under at Jonesboro. But it's like, it's not even close. I would say if you shot like 15 or 16 under at Jonesboro, that's probably equivalent to an 18 under at Fountain Hills, in my opinion, because of the amount is how hard it is. And so the fact he shot 17 is just amazing, because there's so many more variables on a course like Jonesboro as opposed to a course in Arizona like Fountain Hills, where there is water and stuff, but for the most part it's pretty much wide open. And Jonesboro, you've got to shape shots, you got sloped greens, all that stuff. Whereas Fountain Hills, every green's flat. Yeah, there might be water and stuff, but there's, you know, it's just, there's so many more complex variables to shooting around like that make it that much better, in my opinion.
I like the way Nick set that one up. He's like, just downplay when he asked the question. Because I was going to ask you, have you ever shot an 1100 rated round?
Oh, please, Matt.
Yep. Hold on. I'm not asking that like I don't know. I want to see if Ricky does.
Yeah, I have shot 1100 rated rounds, but I mean, I couldn't tell you like off the top of my head like how many I have shot. But I think.
Do we want to play that game?
I know of two.
Too many. He's like, I've shot so many, I don't even know. But
well, can I drop a quick fact, Matt?
Do it.
Ricky
Wysocki here has the most 1100 rated rounds in history.
Hey.
Oh wow!
Do you want to guess how many?
6.
That's close. Any other guesses, Matt or Nick? You want one, Ben?
I'll say 5.
10.
Oh, hey, okay. Ben's the closest. That's 9.
Woohoo.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many of them were at the memorial? That's
okay. Well, I think just one. Okay, so you had 2019 Worlds, you had 2019 Ledgestone, 2018 Utah, 2017 Aussie Open, 2018 MVP. Here we go. 2015 Memorial, 2014 Texas States, 2012 Brent Hambrick, and 2016. I guess it's not in order, but 2016 St. Patrick Classic in California.
I mean, that's. I mean, as a player, it's definitely around to put it to the viewers this way. There's definitely, like, as you mentioned, those rounds. Like, I remember those rounds. The rounds that, like, okay, I shot. I know I did some amazing things in those rounds, and so there is some validity to the PDJ giving you an 1100 rated round. Like, you remember it. You say, hey, I knew exactly what day that was. You know, I knew what I was putting with. I knew some long putts or long drives that I threw really well. So from that standpoint, there is some, I guess, you know, camaraderie or whatever you want to call it, as far as like looking back at those rounds.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm going with it. I don't think players should bank on it. I don't think they should care too much about their own ratings. I think ratings as a round give you something to remember, reflect on, also to compare to. Now, Fountain Hills is an outlier. I think everybody agrees with that. I don't think we should use it as our main comparison, but all those other 1100s are probably pretty close in skill level to do. I think that's where I'm falling with it. But anyways, yeah, we were just curious what you thought, because I'm stuttering because Jonesboro apparently was absolutely perfect conditions. And this is not to downplay
for the first 2 rounds,
but to do the 17 under. This is not to downplay it, but to say that, like, who knows what the conditions were at Fountain Hills during those same ratings. I'm just saying, like, it was perfect. It was set up for it perfectly. So
it was funny. I'm staying with Yuli and my sister at their house while I'm in Charlotte. But Yuli got home from the tournament. I'm like, hey, how was the conditions? Look super, like, super light wind and all that. And he was like, yeah, pretty much the wind was like the wind, there was like negative amounts of wind. Like the baskets were like sucking the disc towards the basket. Like that's literally how, like we've all played rounds where you're like, wow, it feels really easy right now.
Yeah.
And that's just because that right where you throw your disc is exactly where your disc goes. There's no like lifting or like hyzering out or turning way over more than you think. Like that just doesn't happen. So like a player like James, he's got such good angle control that as soon as he throws his disc on the line that he wants, it's just going straight to the basket. And I think that's, why, he played so well is because he's just a point and shoot player. And, maybe the wind might affect him more so than a person like, someone that throws really good high, like a player like AB that just bombs and is really good hyzer thrower and bomber. But yeah, I think that's a big, reason why I think.
Cool. I think some of you are going to laugh by this, what I'm about to say. I think we're all generally on the same page. I just feel like there needs to be an argument made that there is value to the rating system. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying people should bank on it or even really care, but the value in my mind is in comparison and being able to say, like they did in the DGN booth. You've been watching live, Rick. Terry goes to Nate, both the Nates. Hey, do you remember the time you almost had an 1100 rated round? And they can reflect on that round as opposed to saying, when was the last time you shot 17 down? Because Rick, if I ask you that question, when was the last time you shot 17 down? Is that ever? I don't know. I mean,
right. I would remember the rating more so than anything.
That's what I feel like. Unless you did like some park course, you probably shot like 19 down.
Right. Because like I said, the ratings are important in the fact that like I said, if you shoot a 17 under at Fountain Hills or you shoot a 9 under on a super hard course, those ratings could be pretty much the exact same. You're better off rating because then it puts it in perspective for the person that you're kind of explaining to, like, hey, I shot this round here and this round there, so that's kind of like a good way because like as we play so many different varieties of courses on tour. That's another reason.
Absolutely. It depends who you're talking to. And I think, again, we're on the same page, Nick, because there's a time and a place to say, congrats, you just won your event by 8 strokes.
Yes.
And who cares about rating? But there's also a time and a place for someone who doesn't know that course to go, well, what was that rated? And you say, and you go, wow, dang, you played fire. Like it helps in that mindset.
That's where I'll 100% agree with you all day. Is like if Ricky says, "Oh yeah, I shot 1080 at this tournament A tier," then I know Ricky played incredible on that course. I 100% agree with that when it comes to it, and that's why I think almost courses should have ratings instead of players having ratings in that regards. Yes, I will agree with you 100% on that, Matt.
Yeah, nope, it's a good. I mean, that's definitely positive to it as much as there's negatives as well. But
I agree. I agree. We didn't even mean to do a whole show on this, but it's been permeating the whole show.
And you can also look at Ricky is a big advocate for talking about consistency on the tour. Talking about world ranked #1 players being the most consistent throughout the years. The ratings do kind of show some consistency. Now there are flaws in it, but if you are averaging 1045 to 1050 like Ricky has done in the past, Paul, Calvin right now is playing incredible. You're seeing that these players are playing incredibly consistent. I just think there's sometimes a little bit too many propagators. Like if someone was to go out and shoot 17 down at the Memorial this year, it's not going to rate the 1132 that it rated back in 2013 because the level of competition has risen over the years. And so there aren't going to be as many bad scores as there were potentially back in 2013.
For sure.
But that's a whole other conversation.
Got better.
Go ahead. One more time, Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't. A good round shouldn't be, downplayed just because they only beat someone by 4 or 5 strokes as opposed to like 8 like they did back in the day. Paul probably beat the next best person by like, I don't even know how many it was.
I think it was actually only by 4, kind of like what James had just done over at Jonesboro.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, that's just like you said. It kind of proves your point. Like all the players are playing so much better. Where maybe if someone shot 17 under 5 years ago, they're going to beat the next best person by 8-10 strokes, maybe,
Yeah.
Versus
no, definitely.
Players that play at that level, that there's going to be somebody that pops off on that same round and that takes away from James's rating, so to say.
I know you're not out there, so it's not quite fair to ask. I mean, you've been out there a little bit, but we wouldn't say you're 100%. So again, it's not quite fair, but it used to be, and we've been reminiscing, I think, with people that I was watching disc golf with this weekend. The Ricky and Paul show, like there was years of it where if one wasn't winning, you weren't winning, he was. If he wasn't, you were. It was just, that was all there was to it. The game seems to be so much different now. Again, it's not really fair. You're not playing right now. But like, what do you think of the current state of, I'll say MPO and FPO. what do you think of the current state of disc golf, like in the competitive sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's just a lot of people in different stages of their career. That's a good way to put it. I mean, I think like, you got the Pages and Pauls and me kind of all in the same, I guess, age group. And, we've kind of made a name and made a brand, made big contracts for ourselves. And then you got the hungry players like the Isaacs, the Gannons, those type of players. And so it's just kind of how sports goes is you got these cycle of players that are rookies coming up, trying to play well week in and week out and build their name up in the sport. And then you have the players that are well established that can, like Paul and like I said, Paige is kind of an example in the FPO, and Kristen's she's kind of past the build her name up stage. Now she's already built her name, and now she's just kind of maintaining her number one spot in the world. And I think that, yeah, it's there's just always, it's just like I've said in the past, there's always shifts in sports. So what it feels like is, yeah, I mean, you haven't seen Macbeth play as well as he normally does, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not gonna play well and pop off at some tournaments. I think that it just goes back to like what we've seen in the past. We're not going to see that. I mean, Calvin definitely has the chance to win 5 or 6, 7 tournaments in a season. But I mean, when me and Paul were doing it, we would flip flop. He'd win 6 or 7, 8 tournaments in a season. I'd win 6 or 7 or 8. But it's just so much harder now. So I think that, like I've been saying for the years past, is if you're not seeing the 7-win seasons, you have to go to the next category to determine who's that next best player. Which is, like I said, like I've always stressed, is consistency. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's another next generation that's hungry, and I love to see it. And like you got the Gannons, the Coles, those kids, and so it's cool to see them stepping up and really playing at a high level. And Silas and players like that. It's cool to see the players like that kind of get the confidence from learning how to play on a lead card at the final day of a major, because it's just a whole different ball game than doing it at your local course against some, in some local A tier, so it's a whole different ball game. And so once those kids get that feeling and slowly build off of that, it's kind of, they're off to the races, like you've seen with Gannon and Niklas as well. He's been performing really well at the majors as well. He hasn't won one, but he's, probably the most consistent at the majors the past, year, I would say, as far as his finish. That's something to be very proud of, and something to take note of, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to wins, I am not a massive fan of the PGA, although I do watch when things like the Masters Cup and the Masters Cup. I'm going disc golf. See, the Masters come on. Yeah, Augusta National. Like, I love it. I've been down there. I've drove by. I haven't obviously played on it. But when it comes to wins in the PGA, that is a massive achievement. And there are players who are pulling off multiple wins. You hear about it at the big events. In disc golf, are wins becoming more valuable than they used to? I mean, I don't mean that financially. Like, that's true. That's been happening for a couple years now. I mean, valuable to the player. Like, look what I achieved. Like, is Isaac Robinson winning Champions? What is this event? I'm all messed up with names now. Champions Cup. Yeah, thank you. I've got them all messed up. Is him winning that like way more valuable than it would have been 5 years ago? Like,
oh yeah, I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment. I mean, everybody on tours obviously knows how good he is, and it's not like some spectator, everyday follower of the pro tour may just be like, oh wow, that's so crazy that Isaac won. But like, to a lot of the players that play with him week in and week out, realize that he puts in the work. He can hit clutch putts at any time. He can hit fairways. He hits gaps really well, and so he's well equipped to win at any time. And so it's not really a surprise, so to say, from the players that are playing at a high level and understand what it takes to win, because he's got all the ingredients as far as his skill set. So I think that that's an important thing, and you respect the player like that. That's like, wow, he did it. That's an amazing accomplishment, and he's, like I said, it could change the whole course of his career just because of that, and because he's going to gain a lot of followers. He's going to gain a lot of eyes, because which he deserves, because he performed and he just completely owned the competition, which is so hard to do these days. And the fact that he, won by that much, I mean, it looked like it was a lot. Stroke wise, it looked like it was closer than it actually was. But he just completely dominated the entire week.
Yeah. And so again, to the importance of winning, when you are back 100%, which we expect and pray that you will be, will a win again, and it's presumptuous of me. I mean, you're a great player, but will a win, when you do get it, feel better than ever because of where we're at in the sport for you?
Yeah, I definitely so it's crazy because player like Calvin right now, it just kind of feels easy, and that's because he got his game and his putting and his how far he throws and just his form in general. Everything feels easy for him. So when he wins, it just feels normal. It feels like my game is so good right now that I can go out there and feel like I can do that every time. But the crazy thing about disc golf and golf in general is the saying is everything feels easy until it's not, and then everything's easy when you have it, and then when you don't have it, it feels like it's impossible to get it back. That's kind of as far as the form of disc golf. That's how I've heard PGA pros say that, but it's super. It's super accurate because it's disc golf. It's all very I don't want to say trending, but it's very everyone has their spurts of Calvin will win and then it'll be Gannon and then it'll be someone else.
Right.
And so that's the crazy part about our sport is there's so many people that can go on that run of win 3 or 4 tournaments and then maybe have some good finishes and then win 2 or 3 more tournaments towards the end of the season that really separates themselves as far as player of the year and winning that major tournament and all that stuff. And so all those dynamics make it awesome as a player to have that opportunity to say, hey, my game's trending in the right direction. I feel like I can win one. And so it keeps people coming back knowing that if you had a good finish the week before, and then you go to this next tournament, really feel like your game has a chance to win. And it can help, it can change the lives of people. And I think that's the amazing part is just getting yourself the opportunity to get a tour card is one thing. And then going from achieving that tour card to actually winning that tournament that, let's say you get a 3-year exemption in the future if you win a Elite Series event. That's huge. Now you have 3 years to prove yourself, gain sponsors, and make out of this sport. So that's what's going to happen in future generations. That the tour card is going to be so important, and we're going to start seeing storylines and news outlets, media outlets like you guys talking about, hey, so and so may lose his tour card if he doesn't have good finishes, and I think that I know next year is going to be tight, and you're going to probably start seeing players and big names that you thought are just locked in that may lose their tour card. And I think that's just inevitably going to happen because of, like you said, all the amazing next generation and next shift of athletes in the game.
Evan, I don't know if you have anything to say on that, but I saw Evan reacting off camera with some smiles. What do you think about the tour card thing, Evan?
I mean, the tour cards, it's so interesting just because there's so many good players right now and how quality players are just getting their tour cards set for next season. I just mentioned Andrew Presnell. So I think it's a good system to have, and it seems like it's on the right trajectory going forward, especially compared to last year where it didn't seem like it meant too much, but it had some perks, to this year being a pretty serious feature. And in the future, it's going to be even more and more serious. And I like the way it's going. I don't have a lot of visions with it, but I like what I see.
I think that. Oh, go ahead.
No, and I'll let you finish this, but I like what you said, Rick. People getting exemptions if they win. I think there's going to be a lot of value to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, and I think they were going to roll that out this year as far as all the exemptions and how to do all that stuff. If you win a major, you get a lifetime into the Champions Cup. Isaac will be exempt for 10, 20 years or whatever into that event, and then he'll get a 5-year exemption on the Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Series or something like that. So there's so many stipulations that people don't think about. A new player, in the PGA Tour, if you get a top 10 finish in a tournament, let's say I wanted to play a PGA Tour tournament and I actually Monday qualified into the event and got a top 10 finish. All that does, that's great, but all that does is that allows me to play the next week. So if I don't get another I don't play until I find somehow another way to either Monday qualify in or get a sponsor's exemption into an event. So like, it just puts a premium on getting that tour card, and it makes it so much harder to get them.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so it makes it, and I'm not saying that's what the Pro Tour is going to do. But it's just that those are the kind of dynamics that they're going to have to figure out, is how to get one. When you do get one, how are those people getting demoted? Like, are you going to take the bottom 25 on the, let's say, Elite Series, and take like the top 25 of the Silver Series, like like younger players and up and coming players that want to make it on the Elite Series, and bump them up? And I've heard them wanting to do that. And so just all those things like that, they got to roll that out and really see what's going to, and yeah, so I think that just all those little intricacies are what they're working on, and why they didn't roll it out this year, and they're going to roll it out next. Then drug testing, as you know, like that's part of the tour card. Like if you want to have an exemption in all these events, you got to pass our drug test. You got to pass all the different things that come along with having a tour card. It's not, there's a lot of stuff that you have to do for the Pro Tour as well. It's not just, hey, you get to sign up for these events. It's like, hey, you have to hold up an image. You have to show up to media days. You have to show up to press conferences. There's a lot of stuff that they require as well. It's not just a one-sided thing where you're just like, okay, cool, I get to go to the events and I get my private bathrooms and I get, my private parking spots and all this stuff, like, which is what we kind of get now. And it's all great, but you also have to look at it on the flip side. Like the Pro Tour needs things from us as well to be able to promote us to the fans.
Mm-hmm. I'll just say this topic is extremely intriguing. I actually haven't done much thinking about all that, and I think that's incredible. Going back to the Masters again, the PGA, that's the one event that I really watch. I love it every year. It's my Super Bowl of golf. Sam Bennett, this kid that came out of college, right? He had an exemption or a sponsor, or he won amateurs. He won amateur nationals or whatever, and like came out incredibly hot. Had he won that, he probably would have gotten an exemption, obviously back to Masters. But like, to your point, I see that a lot of really cool storylines could come out of this. Like you said, letting in the new players. For instance, we know a player from our neck of the woods, 15 minutes away. Shout out to Paul Kranz, AM World's champion. Went down to Champions Cup, and I think he took what, 17th, 18th?
20th.
Like, yeah. So I guess like players like that, how are they going to get in? That's to your point. I think there could be really good storylines, demote, promote, really cool stuff. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and they're going to, like I said, he's an AM World champion. Like that's a player that's obviously a great player and the best amateur in the world. Like he deserves a spot on the Pro Tour for the next season, like, or at least like a half exemption where he can pick, 8 of the 16 Elite Series events to then, if he has good finishes from there, can then qualify for the Tour Championships and pursue his career, give him at least an opportunity, as opposed to like, not doing anything, so like, yeah, but actually another point on the Sam Bennett thing, I think if he would have got top 10, he would have been automatically qualified for the next year's Masters, but I think he actually dropped, so he didn't get the qualification. But it's pretty, like I said, and that's how tough it is. He's like, he played an amazing week. And also I think I just read an article actually, because I'm a huge golf Masters guy as well, is he actually was an amateur and he couldn't take his payout. So his payout, did you see that?
No, I didn't see the payout. I knew the number was there, but what did he miss?
Yeah. They had, I think it was around $1 million.
What?
And he had the payout back to the payout of the tournament into the purse, and because he's still in college, like he's a college golfer, so he's and that's just how the golf rules are stated. It's not like this golfer, like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna take cash and I'm a pro from here on. He didn't have that opportunity.
Oh, that's
what
so
I was thinking. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I quit college. I'm gonna take the check.
Yeah, like you have to, like, that's not a thing. Like if you're an amateur going into the event, you're still like, it doesn't matter how much you make, like you're still an amateur. You can't like, oh, cool, I won the tournament, won $4 million. Nope. Like,
nope, that just goes to everyone else now.
Yeah. Like, congrats, second place. Officially, you pretty much won the tournament.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably not how it works. I'm sure it gets spread out, but that's still crazy.
Well,
yeah, that's wild. Even with college athletes allowed to make brands for themselves now and accept money from outside sponsors. I don't know the full logistics of it, but I know that is something that's been rolling around the last year. And even with something like that, it's surprising that he still can't accept that money. I mean, we're talking that's big money compared to what we're making in disc golf right now. Like $1 million, that's big money for him to get top 10 at a tournament. That's insanity.
Yeah.
And to not be able to accept that is just that's a big slap in the face. But
really is.
you know, hopefully at that point, hopefully that just shows the potential success that this player is going to have in their career.
This goes to,
you gotta hope that this isn't the last time that he's going to be in a position like that. But
this goes
who
to Nick,
knows?
1,100 rated rounds. I mean,
Yeah.
he could take the place or he could take the cash. And I feel like in this sense that we're making a point, and I know it's not the same ratings and cash, but like be proud of how he finished, right? That's what we should be talking about. But it is fun to hear these other storylines. And man, yeah. So anyways, those are really interesting topics. I feel like we'll have to save some of these for the off season, but I'm glad we brought you on, Rick. What else are we missing to talk about?
Well, I was going to say one last thing, kind of while we're talking about golf a little bit right now, is let's expand out the Pro Tour field in the disc golf world, expand the field a little bit, but cutting the players, let's say the top 50%, or excuse me, the bottom 50% after 2 rounds. So let's make most Elite Series events 4-round tournaments and doing a cut after 2 rounds. What do you think about that? Do you think that's something interesting? And the same conversation kind of goes with, you have your 2 feature cards, you know, Ricky, Paul, Calvin, and Gannon are teeing off at 7:30 in the morning on Thursday, but then on Friday they're teeing off at 3:30 in the afternoon. That's something that we could also kind of take. I know we don't want to be exactly like golf, but this is just more for the conversation aspect, talking to a top level player.
Yeah, I think that's the fairest way to do it, really, as opposed to, you know, somebody that, you know, if you don't get the opportunity to be on a feature card, then you're just kind of luck of the draw. You could get teed off at 7:30 one day, and, you know, you could be getting teed off, and depending on how you played, like, you could be getting teed off at super early both days. So it's just the fairest way, I think, to do the draw, because the feature card, you know, a lot of times favors the good players. The rich get richer is a lot of times what a lot of people say, because the best conditions are a lot of times in the afternoon. Like, you're teeing off at 3:30, 4 o'clock, the wind's down, maybe the rain's down. And I know the rain can go both ways, but a lot of times the wind, towards the end of the day, you're finishing the round at, you know, 7 o'clock. The wind's, you know, calming down. You get an hour of calm conditions, where the guy that teed off at 9 a.m. has to tee off the wind the entire day. So it's a completely different course. So I think that's a good way. And there's still, I mean, it doesn't fix the luck factor, because, you know, if you get the morning and afternoon, like, it's all, some people can get afternoon than morning, and that's the better draw. Like, they talk about that kind of stuff at the Masters, like who got the better draw with the wind and the rain, because that was a very big factor this year, because some people played in the rain, some play as much rain, you know. And so it's still, you know, I don't think it's going to solve the problem, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's not fair, but it's like, it can go both ways. Yeah, it may not be fair for one tournament, but you switch it to the next tournament, and then now the early wave has the advantage, and the late wave has to deal with the rain and the wind, or something like that, you know.
So people are loving your conversation, by the way. They're chanting, "Let Rick talk." So we're gonna keep letting you talk.
Okay.
What do you think?
Let's talk about live golf then.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe we'll have to do the unplugged version of the show. But what do you think about a course like Jonesboro? I don't have a direct quote. I think it was on Paul for the press conference this week, but it was something along the lines of like, hey, the lack of OB. I don't think he used these words, but the lack of OB allows players of all different, quote, skills to throw an errant shot and still be safe and be able to scramble to get par, or not even scramble, but I'm going to throw a shot here. So it condenses the scores at the top. I think it makes it really exciting for the viewers. As an elite player, how do you feel about courses like that? Do you want to see it more like the rich, as you put it, get richer, or do you like courses like Jonesboro?
I think he's very right in that aspect of, as far as, you know, there's a lot of holes out there that, you know, it's kind of like a bomb and gouge type of course if you're comparing it to golf, like where you get players like Bryson, what he was doing, he was just bombing it as far as he could down there. Even if he's in the rough, he's really close to the fairway, and you just kind of chip up and either get a birdie or par. And that's what's going to happen on a lot of holes. And that's kind of how Jonesboro is. And that's why you saw a lot of the top players shooting between 10 and 13 under every time, is because you're not really going to have that round if you're a top player that you're going to shoot, you know, even to 5 under. That's because you have so many birdie opportunities because there's no OB stopping you. And I think that's something, you know, you got the island hole, but that's really the only hole that's coming to my mind that really has OB that you could really take a, you know, semi big number on. And all the other holes, it's like yeah, if you're Calvin or Eagle, you literally just bomb it as far as you can. If you're having errant drive a little bit, yeah, you're a little out of position, but you not even have to save par. You can still get a birdie. So it's just a completely different game. And I think it would be there would add more separation, which I think it needs out there. And I think that's what Paul was getting at is the separation. In order for it to be there, you need to add more out of bounds. You need to add, more tougher shots as far as tee shots go, and maybe put some OB. Not that you want to just put OB everywhere, but that's just kind of like the nature of the beast out there at Jonesboro. And yeah, I guess you don't want to turn it into Winthrop, but you also
yeah. Well, I was just about to bring that up. Instead of let's say the course property line, let's say that specific OB, let's say the whole thing was barbed wire from the property line. There's houses nearby, whatever. You take your 2 meters in. Now the rest of the course that's playing off of these fairways, what if you make them hazards? And so the flow of the course is still kind of staying the same because these players are throwing from where their disc landed out of bounds in the hazard, but they're playing from that spot. I would assume that kind of keeps up course play. It keeps up the momentum going forward with it, but you're adding in that extra element of where players have to be a little bit more, determining of what their shot is supposed to be like.
For sure. And yeah, I think that, so yeah, Paul had a great point. I think we can learn from that, and definitely, if the course designers listening to me, I would like to see, it's turning into like that a lot of places, like Champions Cup. People are just shredding that course. You could say, oh, it needs to be harder. But I think it's a completely different story at Jonesboro, just because, like I said, a lot of the fairways are pretty much wide open. There's just a small gap that you have to hit, and then once you hit that gap, most of the players are just, it's either a birdie or a par, and you're not really seeing that many bogeys, double bogeys. And so that just allows, that just doesn't allow for much separation between the players. And yeah, it can be interesting for the fan when there's, you see this big stack of players that are, only 2-3 strokes off the lead. But that also says something about the course as far as like, there's it kind of seems like the type of course where there's 4 or 5 holes, the island hole, hole 18, and let's say hole 16. There's like a handful of holes that really determine your round if you're going to separate from somebody or not. Because like 16, you can eagle that hole and you can par it, and there's 2 strokes. 18, you can birdie it and bogey it. Whereas like hole 1, it's like it's a birdie or a par. It's not really, they're not going to get the bogeys and the double bogeys on that hole. So it's just like, that's where, I think Matty O said it one time, like there's a lot of courses on tour where you have to play 13 holes and get the high percentage birdie, and then the other holes are where you try to separate yourself that 1 or 2 or 3 strokes on the course.
Well, again, we could go on, and some people want us to, but we have jobs that, or I have a job. I don't know. I'm just saying, I can't stay up all day. But these are interesting things. And for what it's worth, if you're not out there playing, we'll probably have you back on with some more topics. That'd be awesome.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have the Ricky Wysocki recap, just tournament after tournament, until he's back and actually playing them. Matt?
I don't have anything else. What did we miss that you want people to know? Anything? We've covered your what you're doing with Lime and what you're hoping to do, and maybe OTB's still out there, but like anything else?
Yeah.
What should we be looking for from Rick?
No, I'm sorry for all the fantasy disc golf owners. I know you guys roasted me, drafted me in the first round, and, and disappointing you. I know Calvin was saying he was disappointed with you, or you were disappointed with him for not picking him or something.
Yep.
All in good fun. But actually, it's funny. A new adventure I've been taking is my brother's been starting to play, so he's been sending me form videos, so I've been spending some time helping him out. So that'll be cool. He just played his first tournament. He's 18 years old, and I wanted him to start playing when he was like 15 or 16, but you know how it is when they're young. Mm-hmm. They want to do whatever they want to do, and now he's kind of starting to really get so he's figuring out that he wants to play disc golf on his own without me forcing him.
That's awesome. Good. Now, first of all, it's awesome you'll do form reviews via phone. I'm glad I have your phone number. But no, secondly, that's cool to hear, man. He's like, I guess my brother's pretty good at disc golf. Maybe, I should send him a form review.
That's kind of what it turned into. Yeah.
That's cool, dude. And you know what? For what it's worth, like, I have this moment of like sibling being proud of. I don't know if I could put myself in his shoes, but he must be extremely proud. The fact that his brother's someone he can reach out to, and he's got the connections, you know, that's how you'd put it. It's like, he's my brother. So that's cool.
Yeah, it definitely helps. And so I'm thankful to be able to have the time to help him out and give him the resources to just give him the opportunity to get better. And so everything else falls on him as far as how much he wants to practice and get better.
There you go. Again, I'll look upstairs and I'll say, you hear that, boys? You got to practice.
Practice.
Exactly.
Dude, my 8-year-old goes out and beats grown men at these tournaments on the weekends now. It's in AM3, but it's still pretty fun to watch. So.
Oh yeah, that's a great start. As he learns how to play and get the tournament pressure, that's all super important.
Exactly. For what it's worth, and now, Tanner, I promise not to embarrass you, but there was so I won't go too far, but some serious emotion. I'll put it that way. Some very strong emotions came over him after a few holes of him playing like he felt like he didn't do as well as he wanted. And I was really surprised. To your point, working through this tournament play and how do you deal with this? I think golf, the game of golf, disc golf is wonderful. I'm going on my soapbox for junior competitors especially, but learning how to manage yourself, because that's what golf is. It's you versus the course. So I think it's an incredible self-disciplined sport. So that's no one needed me to preach that, but there you go.
No, it's important. Like you said, and a good thing to take away as a parent is, especially if you want your kid to play, is if your kid's feeling those emotions, that means he wants to be out there and he wants to play well, which means obviously he loves the game. And so that's actually a good for the future and the long haul of someone like your kid playing for a long while.
And let me say this, because if he is listening, that one might have embarrassed him a little bit. Let me say this. He deuced a hole, the only one in a field of, I think, 20 who did it, and he's 8 years old. So that was really cool. And for him, that was a bounce back because the first round he took a 6. So it was a major bounce back to it too. Yeah. There you go.
Wow, that is impressive.
There you go. So shout out.
So he's learning. You're talking to him about mental stuff. He's mental game right there.
He's legit a killer at 8 years old. And I don't know what else to say. He's my own kid, so everyone hears me brag on him. But I mean it. Like, my jaw's dropped half the round. So anyways. Thanks.
Well, we're looking for him. That's awesome.
Yeah, watch out. We'll do that round on Maple Hill Reds. Yeah. He's coming.
All right.
Remember that $1 million round? You said it couldn't be Maple Reds, but I'm thinking maybe we should. You versus my son, 8 years old.
Right on.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Rick. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for your time. We know it's valuable. We've talked about that before, and we'll have you on another time soon.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed the show. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, appreciate it, Rick. Peace out.
Yeah.
Peace.
Ricky Wysocki.
What's so funny about that is, if Ricky was to play Tanner on Maple Reds, I could totally picture Ricky just raptor legging hole one, like in Tanner's face, dude. Just like beat down style, just like in your face. All in good fun, but I could totally picture Ricky just making that such a funny video to watch.
I don't know if there's like a real win for Rick unless he did make it extremely fun like that. But like,
dude, it would be hilarious.
It'd be entertaining to watch.
Literally just like, if Ricky just went out and shot like 17 down on Maple Reds or something, but was just like trash talking the whole time, like I would think that'd probably be the funniest thing I could see Ricky doing.
And I'm not saying this
so many people would be
Tanner.
so pissed.
No, I'm not saying it's because it's Tanner, but then he could redeem himself and be like, here's a scholarship to whatever. Like, it would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But Intern Ben, everybody.
Yes.
We've made it towards the end of the show, but Intern Ben has some content for us. First of all, we shout out his channel every now and then because it's growing. He has a cool video up. Go check it out. Ben Kenny's the YouTube. But what do you got, Intern Ben?
All right. This is a little segment no one was prepared for.
It's true.
And it's basically a question to all of you. So it has to do with on the disc golf course. We've all been to tournaments, games, or whatever, practices I meant. And we play with random people all the time during these tournaments mostly. And there's this phrase that I hear at least once every tournament.
Good bid.
And it is starting to make me be like, bruh, I've heard this a million times already. I'm
trying to figure out what it is.
And I'm going to tell you.
No, don't tell us.
I'm so uneasy right now.
So listen.
Can we guess at it?
No, I'm going to give you guys a chance to give your own what you hear way too much on the disc golf course. It's a phrase. I'm gonna tell you what. I don't really get annoyed. I'm just kidding. It's just I hear it so much. I feel like it's overused, and I feel like the same people use it all the time.
Sandbagger.
No.
Oh.
It's this. When you and your other person's discs are right next to each other. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Minis.
Making minis?
No. Where it's a little farther to the basket. All right.
You're out.
Nope.
Wait, what?
I'm so lost.
Listen, okay, sorry.
So your disc land next to each other.
Yeah, like not next to each other.
And
like
they go,
one's a little.
Who's out?
One's a little closer to the basket. One's like further, and then one's a better shot.
They're like, you're out.
No, it's somebody's closer.
Oh, it's the Happy
Dude,
Gilmore.
How many times have you guys heard that? I've heard
Actually,
it.
very, very rarely.
Yeah,
I may hear it.
I hear it every single time.
I'm not gonna lie. I may hear it in a casual round, like if me and my boys from Virginia are playing against each other, because we usually just trash talk the whole time.
Yeah,
but,
if I'm playing with you, Ben, I'm going to do that.
Okay,
Like,
so
I'm
the
not gonna
chat
do
got
that
it.
playing with 4
Yeah.
randos.
Dude, I hear
or
it
3
all the
randos.
time with random saying somebody's closer. So this is the segment I'm just bringing.
Do it.
I just want to know some of the phrases that you have heard, some of the unique ones, obviously not good run. That's pretty normal. Some of the unique ones that you hear all the time that is like between, it could be 20 random people, and I've heard somebody's closer from these 20 random people, and they're not related. So I just want to hear your
Good putt. I hear good putt all the time.
Yeah, I guess.
No.
It's a little on the spot, but you'll see. Somebody's close. I hear it all the time. Every
I
time.
don't really know. I don't really
know.
know of any like phrases that I hear. My two biggest things are this will be like first hole of a tournament or like couple holes in, whatever. Someone will say, "Who are you guys having on the show this weekend?"
Yeah.
And then
That's true.
what's going on
Which
with
is
Paul?
fine.
Those are the two
What's
questions
going
that
on
I
with
hear
Paul?
every single, just about every single tournament. I hear
Well,
that, and I always
actually-
answer where I'm like,
Okay,
I
real
can't
talk,
answer
though,
either
what
of
is
those.
going on with Paul?
Huh?
Like he finished outside the top 15 again. What's
Yeah,
going on?
Nick,
with
you
him?
have to tell us what's going on with Paul.
I don't know.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm
You
sorry.
know?
Continue
Sorry.
on.
Keep going.
Anyways, I always have to answer that question saying I have no idea because we usually don't know who we're getting on the show until Monday night,
Yeah.
which is generally a pretty good assumption of it. And then I usually don't talk to Paul about the tournaments actually really all that often. We talk about other stuff. So
I feel like
but that's what I hear when it comes to actual phrases.
I hear
know.
people randomly sing, "Baby, come back."
Really?
Like,
I've
yeah.
never heard that.
I'll hear that
when
like,
someone
all over
when
the
someone
course.
says "baby come back" and they say it in that, I'm always da na 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 because it's a little guitar solo right there.
and I'm
But
like, yeah, you over yanked it. and
Okay,
then
so
Baby, Come Back.
that's a perfect example
Okay.
where it's like a common thing that people say, but it's
Yeah.
not that common.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, this might be too common, but I'm at least going to go with it. Is like if a few people got a birdie on it or on a par 3, I guess, and whoever's keeping score goes around asking everyone's scores and be like,
Oh,
"Hey, what'd you get? I got a
yes.
2. Oh, good 2. What'd you get? 2. Oh, good 2." Like I just think
Good
it's
2.
like the smallest thing. There's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know why. It feels weird to me. I don't know. That's like it's just a
Or-
pet peeve. That's not actually, no reasoning.
Or when everyone just gets a par and they're like, it's a party or par frame. Like, okay,
I've heard
thank
star.
you.
I've heard star frame for the lame.
Oh, I've
And
never
the,
heard that.
you know,
That's
all
a good
bars.
one.
Yeah, someone will be like, "All right, do we get a star frame for the lame?"
That's a
And
good
I don't
one.
know. Whenever, so I keep score majority of the.
Uh-oh, he just froze up.
It's the 15-minute mark.
How about now we're getting off a little off topic.
It's a little off
bit.
tangent.
A little off
back.
tangent, but then like people being like, you're in a tournament and you're throwing a hole and they throw it in the OB and they're like, I always deuce this hole. Always. This is the first time I've ever done this, and you're like, every hole you say that, like you must have perfect rounds.
You know what that reminds me of? I'm going to The Office season 1 here when they're playing basketball in the warehouse, and Michael Scott just chucks a half-court shot that's nowhere near, and he goes, "I usually make those." Like,
Yeah.
when people act like
Right.
that, that's what I think of in my head. I'm like, yeah, you're Michael Scott. Quit it. Like, stop. You don't always make those. Golf's a hard sport. You're not always getting birdies.
Yeah.
So when people expect to always get birdies and they don't, I'm like, Stop it.
You just got me down another path, and I swear Ben's done this a lot of times too. Everybody does.
Yes, Ben gets on all of our nerves.
I shouldn't throw him under the bus, but like, it's probably not even Ben. But I think I've heard it.
We'll see.
It's probably more Nick than anybody now that I'm thinking about it. Like,
Oh God.
we'll be at Cogs. He shoots 3. He's like, damn, that was a horrible round, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
what? Unless you're shooting your perfect round, it's a horrible round. Like, I know what the could have beens were, but like, how many times do you play that round and you shoot way better than that?
Oh, there's a lot of could have been.
I had a round this past Sunday that I was like super frustrated because I was playing this course realistically. Like, I played it once a couple of years ago, but all the pin positions were just a little bit different from when I've played it. And I played poorly that day. And so one of my buddies came up to me. He's like, hey, what'd you shoot? I was like, oh, only 4 down. And he was like, oh, and I'd said like, yeah, it was so bad on my part. And he was like, oh, I shot 1 down and that was incredible. And he just said, he was like, it's funny how different, like, you know, he's an MA 40 guy and I'm an MPO player. And so it's just funny where, you know, everyone kind of has that mindset, but I'm pretty bad about that where I go out and shoot. And I'm obviously not going to shoot my best round every single round, but I'm pretty bad about being like, damn, that's
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you beat us by 6, and I know you have high expectations, but I'm like, that's not a horrible round.
Yeah.
To defend Nick here, I think there's like kind of 2 scenarios with it. There's the one is you're a way better player, and so you should be scoring way better. But then there's also the classic tale of everyone. If you play your average, you're probably disappointed. Like my average, honestly, isn't that great. And if I do that, I'm disappointed. I want to shoot better than my average. We always want to be improving. We always think we can probably do like 70th percentile for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And when we don't do that, we're disappointed.
I
agree that is
And
frustrating.
I'll kind of defend myself a little bit on this. Is I played a tournament this past Saturday.
What
the
was
first
it
round
rated?
I shot. The first round was 1036 rated.
Nice.
So obviously,
okay, that was pretty good.
Obviously, 30 some odd points above my rating. And so one of the guys came up to me afterwards, and he was like, hey man, how'd you shoot? I was like, oh, I actually shot really well. I left a couple out there because I did. I missed, I think, 1 or 2 circle 1 putts. So I was like, I missed a couple out there, but I played really well. And then the second round, I shot 11 down right after. And I was playing clean the whole round until I bogeyed the last hole. And that's where I was like, oh, that round could have been so much better. But yeah, I mean, I would like to say I know when I've shot a good round.
Yeah.
And because anyone could go out there and let's say the top players in the world, they probably shoot like 14 to 16 down if they were to like play really well at that course. Like 12 down was really good. And I know I did not make many mistakes out there. And so I'm pretty good about saying like, yeah, I played a great round. Everyone can say they did a couple things wrong that they'd like to take back. Like I had 1 bad upshot that caused the bogey later on. But at the same time, I was like, no, I played it really well.
If you shot 17 down, I don't think you say that was a bad round.
No, gosh, no. No.
But this was fun. I think this was fun. No, and obviously us saying we get bothered by things, we have to be lighthearted with that. We don't. I am never during a round being like, that really bothers me.
No, yeah.
Like, not at all.
The somebody's color doesn't bother me at all. I just think it's so funny that I've been in 30 different tournament rounds and at least 20 different people have said, somebody's closer. And I'm like,
when they're farther than you, though?
Yeah, when they're
mainly when they're further than you.
It's not even to me. It's just in general. And I'm like,
it's because you
I've heard
throw
this
far
a million times.
You throw far.
But I'm just saying, I've just heard it.
Okay. Also, Ben, you do throw far. So if I throw further than you, I want to rub it in your face.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that next time I remember.
Now we're all doing it. Everybody you see Intern Ben out
out of
there,
18 holes, it might only happen once. And so I got to say it.
Yeah. I want this is a challenge. Now that we've established this on the Nick and Matt show, next tournament or anything, if somebody says somebody's closer unironically on your card, please DM us and I'll keep track.
I'm not going to lie. You literally just brought this into existence to where every tournament you play, this is going to be said to you. Like you just caused this to yourself for the whole rest of your disc golf life.
Know.
And you've put this upon us as well, as now people are going to say it to me, Matt, and Evan.
But I'm
somebody's closer. So
I'm
thank
enjoying
you.
This.
I guess my quote that I say, my signature quote is "stupid basket." That's mine.
Or this is a stupid hole.
We heard you. I don't remember which tournament it was. I want to say it was at Meadowbrook. Shout out Meadowbrook.
Yes.
Where the epic final went down between you and me. But we heard you somewhere on the course. And Dave Chandler's like, he was following our card, and he's like, I think that was Ben. And I was like, I can't tell if he was excited or mad.
So I'm very expressionful. Is that a word? I vibe with the card. I see how they are, but the way I kind of keep level-headed is kind of just like being like sporadic and just yelling random things like, oh, snap. Like stuff like that.
And he will do a full 360 spin on one toe, like while he's doing
my
that.
body language.
Like that's his tournament play. And again, it's totally acceptable. But it's fun.
If I gotta feel the vibe of the car. If it's people, but I can hold. It just helps me not get angry because I can just express whatever. Like, oh my goodness, you kidding me? And then I can just not like get angry, just like in a laughing smile way, like, you gotta be kidding me, like that. And then I'll be cool, and then I won't harbor it inside.
Gotta find that disc golf mating call video where you go.
Exactly, like that's just natural. That wasn't up for the cameras. That's just me being natural. I'm like, oh.
I wonder where
energy is always natural.
Yes, the energy is natural. So,
I think this is it. Let me see. Oh god. And then he goes for the putt, and then he keeps doing the laws everywhere, but. Anyways, that was Intern Ben during a round.
Yeah.
Okay. We've made it to the end of the show. This was a good closeout. It was a good time tonight.
Matt,
sorry we didn't line up Kat. We tried a lot of different routes, and I would expect that we're gonna see her in an interview this week. There is a lot of logistical stuff coming in from winning an event to the next day making this work. Everything from travel to who knows what, celebrations and everything in between. I would expect you'll find an interview with her and go watch it. Support her. It's an amazing thing. Just didn't work out for us this week. So appreciate it. Nick, go ahead and close us out if you will.
I will. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on this wonderful Monday night. I forgot to say this earlier, but this episode was presented by Cosmic DG. Go over to cosmicdg.com and check out everything to do with them. They're great supporters of the show, and we love them. Matt is actually wearing one of their hats. Shout out to Discura. Shout out to all the sponsors that have really helped us out with this show. Check them out. Support them when you can. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. We're over 9,000 subscribers, and we've got some really cool things kind of in the works for giveaways and all that good stuff. But once again, thank you to everyone tuning in. Tell someone you love them this week. We'll catch you in the next one.
Like, we talk about our YouTube subscribers, and they're valuable, but man, our audio listeners, I've always just...
killing it lately.
I love them. And I don't know who they are, but I love them. And our live concurrent viewers might not seem like a big deal to some, but we started out, Nick, with like 60 or 70 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Last year, we were probably averaging 2 to 250.
Yeah.
This year, we're averaging like 450 to 500. It's
been awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for the support.
We love you.
And that's just live, of course.
Exactly.
Our live chat is totally fun. If you have, Evan, yeah. So you guys are awesome. If you're just a listener, that's totally cool. We love you. Check out the live show sometime. Get in the chat. Let us know. We love it. Ben, you're awesome. Nick, you're awesome. Evan, you're awesome. Let's close it out. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or join the conversation live on YouTube.